Part 57. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan San Buletinji. Chapter 597. On July 12, Capital Time, the China Basketball Youth Training Camp, located in the suburb of Magic City, welcomed a group of new members. A group of 7 or 8, 11, 12, and 12 3-year-old children wore special jerseys and entered the arena with laughter and laughter. The leader is a domestic coach named Fan Weidong, who is responsible for domestic youth training. This time Angzi brought these experienced and skilled coaches from the United States. It is also a happy event for these coaches who specialize in youth training, because they can use the opportunity of this youth training camp to make themselves too make some progress. Angzi had been waiting in the arena for a long time. In fact, after returning to China, Angzi still formed the habit of getting up early to train. When Fan Weidong and the others arrived, Angzi had been training for 2 hours, and had just taken a shower from the locker room, and greeted Fan Weidong and the others refreshedly. "Coach Fan, welcome." The Chinese-style guest Angzi is still very familiar. He and Fan Weidong had a courtesy for a while, and then a group of children formed a team under the command of other coaches. There are about 20 or 30 young players. The youngest seems to be only 5 or 6 years old, and the oldest is tall and looks almost adult. However, as a basketball player, the size cannot tell the age, especially the tall one. Fan Weidong introduced this group of young players to Angzi. Part of this group of young players are from the youth training of Eastern Guangdong, some are from the youth training of Eastern Liaoning, and a few are talented young players nationwide. In short, they should be the best group of young players in China. The biggest one is called Chang Yi. He is 14 years old this year and he is 1.97 meters tall. After testing his bone age, he is estimated to grow to 2.09 meters. It is a good insider seedling. Also, don't look at him short, only 1.62 meters, he is 13 years old, his name is Shumi, he can grow to 1.85 meters in bone age test, point guard Mioze, small ball control skills are very good, and he has a good shot. Although he is not tall, our coaching staff is still very optimistic about him with that skill. This is the strongest one of us. Lu Xiaoqiang is only 10 years old. He has grown to 2 meters in height. The bone age is predicted to grow to 2.28 meters. Another Yao Ming. The key is good health, strong resistance. He is 10 years old. At his age, he can compete one-on-one with big players at the age of 17 or 18, and the speed is not slow. Listening to Fan Weidong's introduction, Angzi kept smiling, shaking hands and hugging with these young players in the longing eyes of this group of players. When these young players saw Angzi, they actually met their dream idol. As basketball players, they regarded the NBA as the highest palace and Angzi as an idol. The moment they met Angzi up close, they were naturally excited. This player is our youngest, named Fan Yi's, only 4 years old. 4 years old. Has he tested the bone age? Angzi suddenly became a little curious. At the age of 4, he was too young to learn to walk for 2 years. What would happen to a child of this age? After listening to Fan Weidong's introduction, Angzi also roughly knows the most important points in domestic selection of talents, such as height, body, and technology. Naturally, there is no need to say much about these items. The most important one is bone age. Bone age can test many important things, the most important of which is the future height. For basketball players, height is very important because it is congenital and difficult to change. The bone age test is about 2 meters. Is it about 2 meters? Then it's about the same as me. Angzi reached out and touched Xiao Fan's head, and the 4-year-old kid laughed happily. Then what would he order? Angzi understood that since all the strongest young players in the country are here, Fan Weidong must have his skills in bringing a 4-year-old child. Fan Weidong glanced at Angzi with a smile, then picked up a basketball from the floor and stuffed it to Xiaofan. Xiaofan got a basketball that was half his size, and looked a little naive, and shouted, "Basketball." Then there was no more words. It could be seen that Xiaofan, who was only 4 years old, could already speak, but he was not very clear about what he said, but he was even more lovely when he was milky and milky. Angzi smiled, and then there was a scene that surprised him. When Xiaofan got the basketball, he slapped it on the floor and moved. Seemingly indiscriminately, Angzi, who observed carefully, found that Xiaofan was really dribbling the ball seriously. Although the speed was not fast, he did not move. The frequency of the dribble was excellent and the posture of the dribble was also very standard. 2 crotch dribbles are quite amazing. Just looking at the dribble, Angzi felt that this Xiaofan would be a good basketball seed. At least with this hand dribbling, Angzi can basically conclude that Xiaofan will be a dribbling master above the professional level. Who is he? Angzi felt that Xiaofan was worth training, so he asked. Fan Weidong smiled, his dad is also in our team. He is in the Zhejiang youth training team. His dad is the coach of the Zhejiang youth training team. He was also a basketball player. Then, Fan Weidong looked to one side. Coach Fan, come here. Not far away, a man of medium build, about 30 years old, ran up all the way. This is Fan Youwei, the coach of the Zhejiang youth training team, and also Fan Yi's father. Angzi shook hands with Xiaofan's father, and then said a few words. Coach Fan, your son knows that he is a talent just by watching this basketball. Train it well. The future can be expected. Coach Fan kept saying thank you. He was very happy. This is Angzi's praise and Angzi's recognition. 20 or 30 young players entered the camp, which also represented the beginning of China's first basketball youth training camp organized by Angzi. In the next few days, the youth training camp was launched. Angzi focused on the several young people that Fan Weidong is optimistic about. He has to say that although the domestic youth training has not produced many talents in recent years, the domestic coaches, the talents we value, are indeed the best ones. For example, Chang Yi, although he is an inside shooter, depends on his bone age and height, he should be a power forward in the future. He has also practiced inside skills. He is very solid in back-to-basket singles and inside footwork. There is also Lu Xiaoqiang, who is called the strongest by Fan Weidong. He is indeed in good health. He is only 10 years old. Because of his height of 2 meters and strong physical fitness, he can actually stage a lot of dunks in the fast break. The speed is according to Fan Weidong's. That said, it is indeed not slow. There is also Fan Yi's Xiaofan. Angzi was shocked by his dribble, and in the follow-up training, Angzi was also satisfied with the ball feel of the 4-year-old Xiaofan. The so-called sense of the ball literally means the feeling of basketball. Angzi found that the 4-year-old Xiaofan has a talent. He seems to be able to master basketball anytime and anywhere. If basketball is really good, Xiaofan's sense of the ball is so good that Angzi feels that Xiaofan has communicated with the of basketball and let the of basketball help him master basketball everywhere. After watching it for a few days, Angzi also had 2 one-on-one confrontations with the 2-meter Lu Xiaoqiang, and the result was naturally needless to say. Lu Xiaoqiang's confrontational ability is indeed very good. In the NBA, it will be no inferior to confront certain adult white players, but in front of Angzi, this confrontation is not enough. Angzi's technique is also much better than Lu Xiaoqiang's, which naturally goes without saying, so the results of the 2 confrontations between the two are self-evident. After several days of observation, Angzi also gave Fan Weidong and the others some suggestions. Chang Yi, looking at the bone age test, he is indeed a good inside shooter, but he has practiced too much inside skills. I think he should be given some outside technical training. A few days later, an 11 communicated with Fan Weidong and the others in a corner of the arena. Outside technical training? Is it necessary? Ang Zi nodded. Of course, the bone age test is not necessarily accurate. If he is less than 2.09 meters long, then he will play outside, or he will play the inside with a shorter one. At that time, he will not be able to play outside. Skills: his height suffers when playing inside. No matter how strong he is, he will always suffer. Ang Zi continued, and do you know the current trend of the NBA? Fan Weidong and the others hesitated for a while, and finally shook their heads. In fact, they also knew a little bit, but in front of the authority of Ang Zi, they still didn't dare to say more. The trend of the NBA in the future is to become outside players. For inside players, the small skills of a few outside players are still very important and popular. Therefore, I still suggest you to let Chang Yi practice some outside skills. The same goes for Lu Xiaoqiang. His speed cannot be lost. At the same time, his dribbling ability and outside shooting also need to be strengthened. In fact, think about it from another angle. If Lu Xiaoqiang becomes a 2m28 high, the confrontation is not weak, the speed is fast, and how terrifying is a big center who can dribble the ball from the outside to attack in singles, and even shoot from any position in the half court. Fan Weidong and the others just thought about it in their minds, and if they thought about it casually, they felt terrifying. Immediately, they nodded as if they were chickens pecking rice. There is also Xu Mi. He has good ball control and good shooting, but the confrontation really needs to be strengthened. Compared with foreigners, we Chinese, the biggest gap is actually physical. I suggest that Xu Mi should be given some strength training. Let him step up the confrontation. Fan Weidong and the others continued to nod their heads. There is also Fan Yi's Xiaofan. Although he is only 4 years old, I would like to say a few words. Now Xiaofan's dribbling is very good, which is surprising. But in the future, if you want to truly gain a foothold in professional basketball, you need more things. Speed, shooting, body, technique, etc. are indispensable, so, Coach Fan, I suggest you go to Mr. Mike Procpio, let him help Xiaofan develop a training plan from a young age. How old to strengthen shooting, how old are you to strengthen various techniques, how to practice your speed, etc. Fan Yowei kept nodding his head, and he also felt that Ang Zi was right. He was going to see Mr. Mike Procpio and ask him for advice when Ang Zi finished speaking. But he didn't know if he should send some gifts to Mr. Mike Procpio, and he didn't know what Mike Procpio liked, so he started thinking about it. When the China basketball youth training camp was in full swing, Rich Paul got busy, and there were 2 hours left, which was the moment he was looking forward to. The editor of the Bleacher website is ready, as well as the local newspaper in Cleveland. In the Cleveland Honest Man's printing plant, fresh Honest Men's newspapers are stacked with the scent of ink. The headline on the front page is a big photo of LeBron James, and it's still a big photo of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The above text is a big go home. Soon, LeBron James appeared at the headquarters of the Bleacher. He sent a notice on Twitter, "In an hour, I will announce my whereabouts." As a result, the United States is boiling. No matter how surprising Ang Zi's performance last season, LeBron James is also the #1 star in many people's minds. Now, LeBron James is about to announce his whereabouts, whether he will stay in Miami, or just like the uproar of the past few days. Rumor has it, going back to Cleveland, going to Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles. And finally, LeBron James wants to announce his final whereabouts. An hour later, countless people waited eagerly. The freshly released Cleveland Honest People newspaper left the factory, and countless people suddenly flooded into the official website of the Bleachers. At this time, a big picture hung there. It was LeBron James in the Cavaliers period. "Come back home." A word appeared on the homepage of the website. LeBron James is home. LeBron James is back in Cleveland. The Big Three in Miami collapsed and LeBron James is back. Countless people exclaimed, LeBron James is back. He returned to Cleveland, back to where the dream began. Anxi, far away in China, also received many calls from reporters at the first time. Of course, he received the first few calls and found that everyone was asking the same question, so he shut down decisively. But I couldn't help thinking about it in my heart. LeBron James actually returned to Cleveland. What impact will this have on the 76ers championship journey next year? Everything is unknown soon. After 10 days, the China basketball youth training camp, which lasted for more than half a month, ended. Anxi has chartered a plane and plans to bring back these coaches and trainers from the United States. He also returns to the United States at the same time. Before leaving, Xiaoguo, who had not had much communication with Anxi this time, pulled Anxi and said a few words. During the off-season of last season, Anxi suggested that he participate in the NBA draft, but until this season, Xiaoguo did not announce his participation in the draft. Xiaoguo gave an explanation and the Liaodong team did not let anyone go. Such an explanation made Anxi a little concerned. He glanced at Xiaofan, who was waving his hands not far away, and Lu Xiaoqiang and others. Perhaps, for Xiaofan and the others, the most suitable place for their development should be in the United States. Because there is freedom, they can freely plan their career. When Anxi boarded the plane to the United States, Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade began to make their choice. The alliance was in an earthquake. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan San Buletinji. Chapter 599. When LeBron James announced that he would return to Cleveland, everyone began to speculate about Wade and Bosh's next stop. Bosh was fiercely pursued by the Houston Rockets. For Chris Bosh, the Rockets even shelved the contract extension with Chandler Parsons, and even Evan Turner was let go for free. But Chris Bosh has been waiting for LeBron James' choice. Now, LeBron James's choice is also out. LeBron James chose to leave Miami. Now it's Chris Bosh's turn to make a choice. Before Bosh chose, Wade also did a deep self-thinking. The offer the Bulls gave him made him very excited, but Wade always believed that he had not yet left Miami and went to other teams to hold his thighs. He still believes in his own strength. After LeBron James left Miami, Wade felt that he should stay in Miami and persuaded Bosh to stay. Even without LeBron, they have to prove that they can gain a foothold in the East. Therefore, Dwayne Wade first reached an agreement with the Heat to renew a 2-year, $34 million low-priced contract. Then Wade began to persuade Bosh to stay in the team. Wade left plenty of cap space for the Heat, so Pat Riley looked confident when he negotiated a new contract with Bosh. Various conditions were promised, and Bosh was finally moved by the Heat. He renewed his contract with a 5-year, $118 million contract and announced his stay in Miami. Wade Bosh has stayed on the team, and the Heat have retained a fairly good core lineup, and the next season is still expected. LeBron James, who returned to Cleveland, has also begun to enter his role. LeBron James returned to his hometown and said he wanted to make up for the mistakes he had left that year. In fact, he still valued the young Cavaliers and the operability in the transfer market. Once he returned to the Cavaliers, LeBron James entered the team. The status of the manager. He asked the team's new general manager David Griffin to trade according to his ideas. Kevin Love of the Western Timberwolves failed to make the playoffs for several consecutive seasons. At this time, he is seeking a transfer. LeBron James will target aiming at Kevin Love, but if you want to get Kevin Love, the Cavaliers have to pay Andrew Wiggins, the number 1 pick just selected. Therefore, such a trade still makes David Griffin quite scratching his head, because he is very optimistic about the potential of Andrew Wiggins, but at this time LeBron James needs more immediate combat power. For the Cavaliers returning to LeBron James, the most important thing for them now is to give the Cavaliers the ability to directly compete for the championship. Now, the core lineup of the Cavaliers is Kelly Irving and LeBron James. Yanwei's combination, and for the Cavaliers, if they can be traded to Kevin Love, they are equivalent to reenacting the Big Three in Cleveland. And it is likely to be an enhanced version of the Heat Big Three. Kelly Irving is younger, and Kevin Love is likely to be a better big shooter. In the Timberwolves last season, Kevin Love averaged 2.5 three-pointers per game and made 37.6% three-pointers. A very strong three-point shooter. And LeBron James 4 years in Miami also made many people understand that LeBron James needs teammates. It is best to have a three-point range, so as to perfectly fit LeBron James' own system. Therefore, if the deal of Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love can be made, it may be a pretty good deal, which will greatly enhance the existing combat effectiveness of the Cavaliers. But where David Griffin hesitated lies in the potential of Andrew Wiggins. Before Andrew Wiggins entered the league, a lot of praise flooded him. New LeBron James, new Kevin Durant, new Paul George. In the view of David Griffin, if Andrew Wiggins can realize his potential, then this trade of Wiggins for Kevin Love is likely to be a loss. But there is no way. LeBron James is here, he can only pay more attention to the immediate interests. As for the future, he can only ignore it. The general manager of the Timberwolves, David Kahn, is also a manager who has been criticized in major magazines and newspapers in the past 2 years, because he has received numerous lottery picks in the 5 seasons of the Timberwolves, but failed to select even a good rookie. Kevin Love is also the wealth left to him by his predecessor Kevin McHale. In short, although David Kahn is still sitting on the throne of his general manager, the criticism he has received should have caused him to step down long ago. Now that the team has failed to make the playoffs for 3 or 4 consecutive seasons, Kevin Love has the idea of transferring and leaving, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have sent a fairly good offer. In this way, the two teams hit it off and are moving. When the meeting market and the free market are in full swing, the deal is concluded. In August 2014, US time, Kevin Love's transfer to the Cavaliers entered the final stage. Anzi, who returned to the United States, also started his summer training. The Sixers' signings in the transfer market and the free market this season were a bit quiet, except for those completed at the beginning of the transfer market and the free market and Pau Gasol's. Apart from the renewal and the re-signing of Evan Turner, there will be no more transfer operations. The Sixers' main lineup last season included Kawhi and Sean Livingston at the point guard position, Anzi, James Anderson, and Troy Daniels at the shooting guard position, and Jack Lauder and the small forward position. Francisco Garcia, Pau Gasol at the power forward position, and Norrens Noel, Cole Aldridge and Henry Sims at the center position. Coupled with the draft selection of Joel Embiid and the swingman KJ McDaniels, as well as the freelance Evan Turner. Now the 76ers have 14 players in the lineup. Antoine Jamison announced his retirement after winning the championship last season. He did not expect that he would win a championship unexpectedly after his transfer to the 76ers. This championship is for Jamison is a surprise. He directly chose to retire, because after the championship, his career has been completed. Joel Embiid has already been reimbursed for the season. I think that this season the 76ers will give Joel Embiid an injury exception like last season and will not account for the team's 15 spots. Therefore, there are still 2 vacancies available for the 76ers this season. For these 2 vacancies, the point guard must fill one and the power forward must fill one. This time is different from last year. The 76ers are the defending champions. Many veterans hope to come to hug their legs and fight for a championship ring in the final stage of their career. The 76ers only need to choose the 2 most veterans from the many veterans. It is enough to add players suitable for the team. Therefore, the Sixers Summer League this season did not make serious preparations and treatments, but just let rookie KJ McDaniels lead and go to the Las Vegas Summer League for a lap. KJ McDaniels will be the 76ers' only rookie this season. His performance in the Summer League is still supplemented. His physical fitness is very strong and the defensive end is very positive. It is temporarily satisfied with coach Brett Brown. he will stay on the team and become the fourth substitute on the third position of the team. Of the current 14 players in the 76ers, only Pau Gasol's contract is more than $10 million. Angzi's contract is in the second year of the contract period. Due to the limitation of Arenas terms, his salary this season is only $540 won. It is a super value contract. For this reason, the 76ers have a huge cap space, but the 76ers did not pursue those all-star players, because Sam Hinkie knew very well that at this stage, the 76ers do not need a third all-star player. The 76ers what people need is more outstanding role players. Last season, Sean Livingston proved his worth with a coquettish back-and-back shot, so he stayed on the team. James Anderson and Troy Daniels had accurate three-pointers, and they also proved themselves, so they stayed on the team. The same is true for Francisco Garcia. His three-pointer is accurate and he is full of outside deterrence. He is a pretty good role player. Not to mention the insider Cole Aldridge, while Henry Sims is more stayed on the team as an inside supplement. Evan Turner joined the transfer and he will become the sixth man of the 76ers. Although Evan Turner did not perform well in the Rockets last season, as Turner's former teammates, Angzi still believes in Evan Turner's. They believe that Evan Turner will be able to regain his former state after returning to the home team 76ers. The 76ers transfer operations have been continuing. They have a lot of cap space. This also makes Sam Hinkie's choices in the free market more diversified. He can choose a free agent that may be expensive, so as to help the 76ers further strengthen the team's bench depth. On August 8, U.S. time, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Minnesota Timberwolves trade was announced. The two teams jointly announced that the Cleveland Cavaliers had sent Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, and a 2015 protected first-round pick in exchange for Kevin Love from the Timberwolves. Once the deal was completed, North America was shaken. The Cleveland honest man became very active the moment LeBron James returned. After the Cavaliers trade Kevin Love was completed, they even published the front page in the newspaper the next day, announcing that the Cleveland era had returned. LeBron James, Kevin Love, Kelly Irving, this is a very competitive combination of the big three. If you add Andre Varejao, Dion Waiters, and Tristan Thompson, the strength of the team is strong enough and satisfactory enough. Cleveland is about to rise again. In the new season, our goal is the championship. At the moment when the Big Three became an army, the Clevelandans once again shouted the slogan of winning. The Cavaliers' signings have never ended. Under the leadership of LeBron James, McMillan, and James Jones joined in one after another, as well as Brandon Haywood and Louis Amundsen, who were seeking championships at the end of their careers. The Cavaliers' a very competitive lineup was quickly formed, but the effect is still to be tested in the regular season of the new season. On the Heat side, with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade staying in the team, the Heat successively used the salary space left by James' departure and Wade's salary cut to make some transfer operations, including tens of millions. The contract signed Ruel Deng to fill the vacancy of LeBron James, as well as the signing of veterans such as Danny Granger and Josh McRoberts to enhance the team's bench strength. Pat Riley also dug a few good-looking players from the Summer League, including Taylor Johnson, Justin Hamilton, and Hassan Whiteside. The embryonic form of the Heat's new season's main lineup is roughly determined at the end of August. The New York Knicks, who missed the playoffs last season, welcomed KFC Phil Jackson to join the season. Under the leadership of Phil Jackson, Carmelo Anthony successfully stayed on the team, and Phil Jackson also signed Andrea Bargnani, and traded Tyson Chandler for Jose Calderon to strengthen the team's point guard strength. Phil Jackson also tried to sign Steve Kerr as the team's new head coach, but was eventually intercepted by the Warriors. Phil Jackson finally chose the old Fisher to become the team's new head coach. For the Knicks, their goal in the new season is only the playoffs, but with Melo Anthony remaining on the team, they definitely look forward to more. While other teams are signing in or retaining their core players, the Pacers are constantly losing their core players. Lance Stevenson finally reached an agreement with the Hornets and left Indiana. Then, even more bad news came. Paul George suffered a serious injury to his right calf during a US team match and was eventually carried out of the field. The subsequent injury report showed that Paul George suffered a broken leg injury that athletes least want to encounter. Reimbursed for the season. Paul George is reimbursed for the season. For the Pacers, it is equivalent to completely losing the core players in the team next season. Next season, they even have to consider whether they are bad. As the days advance step by step, the situation in the East will become more and more obvious in the new season. Retaining the winning core lineup, there are even the 76ers who are recruited, and the Cavaliers who welcome back LeBron James, traded for Kevin Love to form the new Big Three, will be the two biggest in the East in the new season. A strong team, and although the Miami Heat retained Bosh and Wade and signed Ruel Deng, the competitiveness of the new season depends on the state of Bosh and Wade in the new season and whether Ruel Deng can fill part of the vacancy caused by LeBron James' departure. Therefore, the Heat are temporarily classified as the second gear in the East. With their strength, they have a good chance of rushing into the first gear. The teams that are temporarily in the same gear with them also include the Bulls, who are about to usher in Derrick Rose's comeback, the Toronto Raptors, which have further strengthened the bench depth, and the Brooklyn Nets and New York Knicks, which retain the Big Five. Of course, the Washington Wizards, Milwaukee Bucks, Charlotte Hornets, and Detroit Pistons are also competing. Opportunity for the playoffs. In short, the new season's Eastern Conference is full of superpowers, and the overall situation is showing more than two superpowers. For the 76ers, their biggest opponent in the new season is the Cavaliers. In order to fight against the Cavaliers, Sam Hinkies' signings are also continuing. Because the team has a huge cap space, so in order to defend the new season, Sam Hinkies' signings are also spared no effort. It will be coming in September. At the beginning, he had negotiated the last two signings. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 601. Philadelphia in September is the hottest time of summer, and the 76ers preseason training has begun. On the first day of the training camp, Anzi came very early, and the sky was still dark, so he drove his Ferrari supercar and appeared in the underground garage of the training hall. Because it was the first day of the training camp, the team also arranged a lot of activities. It should be said that there is not much time for training today: the preseason physical test in the morning, the press conference before the new season training in the afternoon, and so on. The team's press officer also came to the training hall early in the morning, because he knew that there would be reporters in the player channel in the morning, waiting for the arrival of the 76ers. As a result, as soon as he arrived, he heard the roar of the engine from the entrance of the parking lot, and a fiery Ferrari supercar rushed in like this. The news officer named Deangtai Lewis could tell at a glance that it was Anzi who had drove there so early. Anzi stopped the car, opened the door, and saw Deangtai Lewis waiting there. Anzi nodded and smiled at the team press officer he was more familiar with. "Good morning, Deangtai." "Good morning, An. I didn't expect you to come so early." Anzi smiled. "Didn't you come early?" Then, Deangtai Lewis nodded, and the two of them had nothing to say. Deangtai Lewis continued to wait in the player channel, waiting for reporters who might come, while an 11 entered the long player channel and walked towards the locker room. Anzi changed into training clothes and started training in the training hall. In the 76ers training hall in the early morning, the air conditioner was turned on early. When Anzi first started training, he still felt a bit of coolness. After the training lasted for more than half an hour, Anzi's body was already hot. At this time, Deangtai Lewis, who was waiting in the parking lot, could not wait for reporters, but waited for several team staff and a hugely tall man. Deang Tai Lewis still recognized at a glance that this hugely tall man is the number 7 pick of the 76ers this season, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid also came early. He came so early not for training, but for physiotherapy. The staff of several teams who came with him were the team that gave him physiotherapy. Team doctor. Joel, are you here so early to prepare for physical therapy? Deang Tai Lewis also greeted Joel Embiid. As the team's press officer, it is important to have a good relationship with each player. Joel Embiid nodded at Deang Tai Lewis, winking. Yes, I am a hard-working person. Deang Tai Lewis smiled and said, Joel, there are actually someone who came earlier than you. Joel Embiid was startled and glanced at the time subconsciously. It was only 7 o'clock. He didn't believe anyone would come so early. So, he shook his head and at the same time shook his fingers. I don't believe it. Deang Tai Lewis also shook his head, did not say anything, just pointed to the arena, which meant that Joel Embiid would watch it by himself. Joel Embiid was really curious. He thought it was only 7 o'clock, no one would have come so early. As a result, the team doctor behind him said something strangely, it must be and only he will come so early. Joel Embiid still didn't believe it. He didn't really believe it until he opened the door of the stadium and saw Angzi sweating like rain. The training day for NBA teams is 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a true 9 to 5. Therefore, few players come to train in advance, even some hard-working players. I will only choose to stay in the arena for additional training after the day's training is over. There are very few players like Angzi who are always training in the NBA. The door was pushed open, Angzi also saw Joel Embiid, and the two naturally said hello. This was the first time Angzi saw Joel Embiid. At this time, he didn't think so much. No one knew that Joel Embiid would become Angzi's biggest helper. At this moment, the only impression he had of Joel Embiid was that this product was indeed huge, and it looked scary. Joel Embiid can't train yet, he has gauze wrapped around his legs and he is still leaning on crutches. Seeing the current leader of the 76ers Angzi, Joel Embiid once again played his funny side. As soon as they met, they asked Angzi to take a photo with him. When I took a group photo, I still seemed very contemplative. The phone was placed high, and I was standing high, but Angzi seemed a little petite. At the end of the group photo, Angzi, as the boss of the team, also encouraged Embiid a few words, Joel, take care of your injury, I hope you can come back next year and make a great contribution to the team. Joel Embiid went to the physiotherapy room for rehabilitation therapy. What Angzi didn't know was that while he continued to train, Joel Embiid was lying on the physiotherapy bed and sent out a tweet with his mobile phone. The picture is the group photo, and the accompanying text is a bit funny. Me and my little brother. At Joel Embiid also ate Angzi. This tweet was quickly spread, because of Joel Embiid's funny comparison, because Angzi appeared on the picture, and because this picture was from in terms of visual effects, it really means Angzi is the younger brother and Joel Embiid is the boss. But everyone knows that after Angzi played an epic finals personal performance, Angzi can't be anyone's younger brother. Therefore, everyone was conquered by Joel Embiid's teasing, and Emperor Embiid's Twitter emperor journey began from here. When it was not 9 o'clock in the morning, Angzi finished the training. Just as he was about to go to the locker room to take a bath, Sam Sinke took a group of people to the side of the training hall, seeming to be setting up the site of the press conference. Angzi guessed something, so he wiped his sweat with a towel and walked over. Sure enough, Sam Sinke was preparing for a press conference for the team's new aide. Before the start of the preseason training, Sam Sinke completed a contract. The new aide is Channing Frye. We competed with the Orlando Magic and finally won the competition with a stronger team. Channing Frye will sign us a 4-year, $32 million declining contract. Channing Frye and Angzi are naturally familiar. This is a big three-point shooter. He is a power forward. He can shoot from any position on the court. It is the hottest space-based fourth position nowadays. Sam Sinke does. With this signing, it is clear that he also saw what the current team needs: 3 points. The 76ers need a three-pointer. Although Angzi is a big killer on the perimeter, Jack Lauder can also shoot three-pointers. Several substitutes at the shooting guard position also have three-pointers, but in today's league, there is no such team. I think my team has too many three-pointers. Channing Frye joins. Angzi's ideas are divided into two sides. Channing Frye's joining will definitely strengthen the team's strength for the 76ers, but the contract seems to be a bit big, and this may be the deal. The only shortcoming of the contract. But Sam Sinke had nothing to do. Magic general manager Rob Hennigan seemed to have received a kickback and frantically offered Channing Frye a big contract. In order to sign Channing Frye, the 76ers had to offer it. He signed a contract that was not too small, and then took advantage of the strength of the team to beat the Magic to sign Channing Frye, a high-quality spatial fourth. Channing Frye quickly appeared in the 76ers training hall, and reporters who came one after another attended the signing ceremony of Channing Frye. At this time, the news came out that Channing Frye signed the 76ers. As Angzi thought, Channing Frye's signing caused a lot of criticism. A domestic fan called Blood Romance is a loyal James fan, so this signing of Channing Frye was seen as a joke by him. Channing Frye is actually worth $32 million in 4 years. Sam Sinke is indeed a god. The trophy of last season's best manager is really right. This comment is obviously ironic. The fans of Bloody Romance obviously think Channing Frye is too expensive. Another neutral fan, Tears of Love, also felt that this signing was a big loss. He analyzed the signing from the player's personal style and the team's technical and tactical needs. Channing Frye is too soft and has a single function. He can only shoot 3 points. Such a big man, if I were Sam Sinke, I would only give him a middle class at most. So, for the 76ers, this deal has lost a lot. Everyone felt that the 76ers were at a loss, but Angzi, after careful consideration at this time, welcomed Channing Frye to join him on his Twitter, and then looked forward to the future. Every NBA dynasty team has that kind of high-quality role player. In my opinion, Channing will be the 76ers' Robert Horry, and every three-pointer he makes will be crucial. A team boss gave a welcome and gave such a high praise. Channing Frye is naturally very grateful. After all, after the signing of this contract, he has suffered a lot of criticism. Angzi's remarks are considered to be quite a lot of criticism. On the first day of the training camp, Channing Frye joined, but KJ McDaniels and Henry Sims, who had just joined the team, quietly left Philadelphia. Because Sam Sinke negotiated another deal, 2-for-1, Angzi also learned of the deal early, and Adrian Wojnarowski first broke the details of the deal. The 76ers completed the transaction with the Atlanta Hawks. Brett Brown and Mike Budenholzer's good relationship contributed to the completion of the transaction. The 76ers traded KJ McDaniels and Henry Sims from the Hawks. Lewis Williams. The reason why the Eagles sent away Lewis Williams was mainly for saving money. Under Mike Budenholzer, the former Super Sixth man Lewis Williams failed to exert his power in the team. With point guards such as Shelvin Mark and Schroeder inside, Lewis Williams' contract is worth $5 million next season, which is indeed a waste of money. The KJ McDaniels obtained in this transaction can be regarded as a potential swingman, and Henry Sims is an unsecured contract and can be terminated at any time. This is the reason why the Eagles completed this transaction. However, after the deal was completed, the 76ers had one more spot on the roster. But at this time, Sam Sinke's signings have stagnated. Before the start of the preseason, the 76ers completed a few more signings, but they were all players on training camp contracts. Before the start of the preseason, the 76ers formed a 17-man roster. Point guards, Mkaway, Lewis Williams, Sean Livingston, Ismail Smith. Shooting guards, Angzi, James Anderson, Troy Daniels, Glenn Robinson III. Small forwards, Jack Lauder, Evan Turner, Francisco Garcia. Power forwards, Pau Gasol, Channing Frye, Ronnie Turiev. Centers, Norrens Knoll, Cole Aldridge, Joel Embiid. The 76ers temporarily signed up for Joel Embiid. After all, judging from the team's current roster, there is still a gap between filling the 15-man quota, and the depth of the 76ers at the center position is not bad. Through the previous summer from the league and preseason training, Norrens Knoll can basically meet the team's requirements for a starting center, and Cole Aldridge is a center whose strength lies between the main substitutes. Such two big men consist of the inside line. Naturally it is enough. And before the start of the preseason forecast for a season began. ESPN also, like last year, chose to let Mark Stein and other people make preseason predictions before the preseason, while the Data de Zaclaui will make more detailed preseason predictions after the preseason is over. This time, ESPN's predictions for the 76ers are much more fair. Mark Stein believes that the 76ers will beat the Cleveland Cavaliers this season, ranking first in the East, and Angzi will also become a strong contender for the regular season MVP. Such a prediction obviously gave the defending champions face. But for the Sixers signings this season, Mark Stein only gave a B level. He thinks the 76ers signings are not enough. This season, the Sixers' work in signings includes the loss of the main center Omer Asik last season, the acquisition of former Super Sixth man Lewis Williams, veteran Evan Turner, and a 4-year $32 million Channing Frye, who was signed by the big contract. Of course, also includes Joel Embiid, who was drafted but has been reimbursed for the season. This kind of signings is of course incomparable to the Cavaliers, who got LeBron James and Kevin Love. Mark Stein believes that the strength of the Sixers signings seems to only supplement the depth of the team's bench. Not only did the starting lineup fail to strengthen, it also lost Omer Asik. However, the local media in Philadelphia have a different view on this point. Philadelphia Daily News reporter Bob Cooney believes that Norrens Knoll, who has returned from injury, can be considered a major signing for the 76ers, and the young Norrens Knoll will be a more suitable starting center for the 76ers. Everyone has their own different opinions, but all in all, the 76ers, who rushed to the finals as a dark horse last season and successfully won the cup, will definitely do something in the new season. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 602. In Los Angeles, USA, an Airbus plane roared and landed at Los Angeles International Airport. Angzi took Evo Clark and stepped off the plane. He took a leave and came to Los Angeles to participate in the upcoming Angzi sneaker brand conference. After more than 2 months of preparations and negotiations, Angzi and Adidas reached an agreement. Adidas will use $300 million in cash and technology patents to buy shares, occupying 30% of Angzi Sports, and Angzi will use $500 million in cash to add shares. Personal brand effect, occupying 60% of Angzi Sports shares, and the remaining 10% of the shares are occupied by some small shareholders. These small shareholders include Evo Clark, who owns 2% of the shares, and Abby Hornace, who owns 5% of the shares. Grams etc. After arriving in Los Angeles, Angzi Sports staff came to pick you up at the gate of the airport. And, let me introduce you. This is Matt Powell, the operations director of Angzi Sports. Before joining Angzi Sports, he was an expert in the American sneaker market. He has a good grasp of the trends of sneakers. The one who came to pick up the plane was a member of Angzi Sports management. The operations director named Matt Powell obviously has a bit of fame and is regarded as an important member of the newly established Angzi Sports. Of course, Matt Powell's reputation is simply not worth mentioning in front of Angzi, so this middle-aged white man in the Mediterranean still looks respectful when facing Angzi. The two greeted each other, then boarded a Chevrolet and headed towards the destination of the press conference. This Angzi Sports press conference was held at an arena rented by Angzi Sports as an office space, located in the suburbs of Los Angeles. At this time, it is already here, under the organization of Zhang Mingji, preparing for a ribbon-cutting ceremony with Chinese characteristics. The protagonist of the ceremony was naturally Angzi that came later. There are not many people at the scene. After all, there are relatively few people in the United States who like to watch the excitement. Only some reporters who have been notified in advance. They are here with long guns and short cannons. Before the ceremony began, the group of reporters appeared to be lackluster, sitting in twos and threes around, not knowing what they were talking about. Mark Stein and Sam Amick also appeared here. These two people are considered to be the biggest names among the reporters on the scene. Many small reporters surround them because they think that Mark Stein and Sam Amick might know. What an inside story. Mark Stein didn't say anything, but Sam Amick was talking there. As far as I know, the sneaker contract between Angzi and Jordan Sports has expired. This press conference is about to change jobs. Job? Nike. Under Armour. Sam Amick shook his head. No, neither. He squinted his eyes pretentiously. I saw a Chevrolet Hornet limited edition supercar in the parking lot. A group of young reporters didn't understand Sam Amick's remarks, but some old reporters quickly reacted. Chevrolet Hornet Limited Super Run? Isn't that the car driven by Adidas' young owner? Angzi switched to Adidas. Many reporters screamed as if they had discovered some big news. Some young reporters also reacted. Some impulsive reporters were even afraid to slow down. They had already sent the news back to their own media headquarters in advance. But in fact, the red cloth on the stage has not been opened yet, and no one knows. In fact, this press conference is an established press conference of Angzi Sports. When Angzi arrived at the scene, the reporters, large and small, went crazy. They flocked to Angzi and hit Angzi with various questions. Among them, the one who asked the most was whether Angzi switched to Adidas. Angzi just smiled. He didn't understand how these reporters thought he had already switched to Adidas. Perhaps they saw the top executives of Adidas on the spot. The bodyguard cleared his way. N11 did not answer any questions. After all, the next press conference was held, which was meant for reporters to ask questions. When Angzi walked to the backstage of the arena, Angzi saw a group of white men in suits with meticulous haircuts, ties, and gray-black suits. The head was a young man, who also combed his boss head, and when he saw Angzi, he greeted him. Hello, Mr. Angzi, this is Adolf Heiner, I am glad to meet you. Angzi also stretched out his hand, and the two shook hands. Ivo Clark hurried out to introduce Angzi. This is Mr. Adolf Heiner, the son of Adidas chairman Herbert Heiner. When Angzi Sports is established, Mr. Adolf Heiner will be the vice president of Angzi Sports, responsible for cooperation with Adidas. Angzi nodded and continued to smile. He knew that this young Adolf Heiner was the representative sent by Adidas. Looking at his identity, Angzi knew that Adidas still attached great importance to Angzi Sports, a cooperative sports brand. In fact, it is true, just like Angzi thought, Adidas internally attached great importance to this cooperation with Angzi, especially after Angzi played an epic finals performance. Adidas internally paid more attention to this cooperation. Because they saw Angzi's potential to become the next Jordan, and even Herbert Heiner saw Angzi's potential to surpass Michael Jordan. If Angzi surpasses Michael Jordan, then Angzi Sports will be another Jordan Sports. And Adidas can't help but catch it. Adolf Heiner saw Angzi and laughed, but Angzi looked at the young German. Now, his impression of the Germans is even more profound. His hairstyle, dress, and behavior are stiff and serious. A full-fledged German. Soon, The fairly harmonious exchanges in the background ended, the host took the stage, and the press conference finally began under the torment of everyone's waiting. Cut, isn't it just signing Adidas? Is it necessary to make it so mysterious? Yeah, let us wait for so long. Can't an ordinary press conference be enough? The reporters in the audience were waiting anxiously, and they had complained long ago. Now that it finally started, some reporters couldn't help but complain. However, the next moment, the opening remarks from the host population surprised the group of reporters. Ladies and gentlemen, friends from the press, welcome to the inauguration ceremony of Angzi Sporting Goods Company. Angzi Sports? What the hell? Many reporters looked at each other. At this time, they only heard this word, a word that was unfamiliar and familiar. Angzi, they are very familiar, but after adding the company, that is, company, they feel a little strange, but at this time, some of the reporters with keen sense of smell suddenly understood something. Angzi Sports? Angzi has to create its own brand of sneakers. Adidas high-level appearance, is it to cooperate with Adidas? Many reporters have guessed that they are inseparable from each other, and now, only waiting for the host to announce. Now, let us invite NBA superstar Angzi and Adidas Sports representative Adolf Heiner. With the red brace, sure enough, the big logo of Angzi Sports appeared. The sneaker logo of Angzi Sports is different from the brand logo. The brand logo is more cumbersome. It is an uppercase A and a lowercase n forming the first half, with an X overlapped in the middle, and 3 letters forming a column, with a little added on it, which means I. The following is a line of Chinese Angzi Sports. The sneaker logo of Angzi Sports was soon revealed. At the scene, the ribbon was cut first. Angzi took the scissors and completed the ribbon-cutting ceremony with Adolf Heiner. Then, the host announced that Angzi Sports' first sneaker is Angzi's customized sneakers, the Descendant of the Dragon. This sneaker is an elite design team sent by Adidas, all high-tech, and finally designed this representative sneaker. This pair of sneakers is currently the only pair of sneakers in Angzi Sports. It will help Angzi Sports to open up the market. As a black cloth in the center of the stage was pulled apart and Angzi customized sneakers, the descendants of Long revealed his true colors. Just like traditional basketball shoes, high top, streamlined, very sporty. The difference is his color scheme. The main color is naturally the color of the 76ers, red and blue, but there are a lot of gold lines in the middle. A closer look shows that they are Oriental dragons. Adidas' unique patented foot is added to the bottom. The midsole of the foot can help the foot to twist naturally and prevent athletes from spraining the foot due to rapid lateral movement. This is a technology unique to Adidas. Of course, there is also Adidas's air cushion and his breathability, which is also one of the highlights of the sneaker. However, the most important highlight of the sneaker is actually a new technology of Adidas Boost. Adidas cooperated with BASFs, a world-renowned chemical company also from Germany, to split solid particles with TPU as the main component into thousands of small thermoplastic particles. The compressed space of small particles can provide better reduction than the original form. At the same time, the toughness of the solid material itself makes the small particles have extremely strong elasticity after being deformed by external forces. The biggest feature of Boost technology is that through the feedback of the midsole technology, the feedback of the energy limit released by the previous exercise return your feet to reduce energy waste during exercise. This technology has not been used in any sneaker products. It is said that Adidas originally planned to use it on Derrick Rose's sneakers. But now that Angzi is here, Adidas naturally applied this technology to Angzi first. The on-site host specifically introduced the various technologies of this pair of sneakers, but more reporters paid attention to the logo on the sneakers. The sneaker logo of Angzi Sports is very simple, just a letter A. A is the first letter of Angzi's full spelling of English. Of course, it also has a deeper meaning. A is the first of the 26 letters. Naturally, the meaning is needless to say. In addition, the sharpness of this design is revealed, and the tip of the top is imposing, which demonstrates Angzi's aggressiveness. Some people laughed, if you put the logo of Jordan Sports on this A, it will become Angzi's attitude towards Michael Jordan. Angzi Sports officially announced that the basketball community was in an uproar. Originally, after the contract between Angzi and Jordan Sports expired, many people were speculating on the whereabouts of Angzi's next sneaker contract. Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour would give Angzi a large contract, but no one thought that Angzi would directly establish an independent brand and cooperated with Adidas to obtain Adidas technical advantages. Sam Amick was stunned. He found that all his guesses were wrong before the press conference. No one thought that Angzi would actually create his own brand of sneakers. And those young reporters who rushed to announce that Angzi signed the Adidas contract a long time ago, at this time they sent letters to the headquarters eagerly, overturning the previous reports. Mark Stein also sent a tweet after the press conference. After playing an epic finals performance, Angzi began to move towards its own altar. After the success in competition, Angzi began to seek commercial success, and Angzi Sports, perhaps just the beginning. The establishment of Angzi Sports naturally aroused countless discussions, but the pre-season that followed soon attracted the attention of many people. The beginning of the pre-season means that the new season is approaching. There are 8 games in the Sixers pre-season trip in the new season, and these 8 games have been treated by Brett Brown as a training opportunity. In the new season, Brett Brown is preparing to upgrade the team technically and tactically. After winning the finals, Angzi has grown into a player who can match any tactics at will, and Brett Brown has moved a lot of thoughts because of this. He thinks that perhaps because of Angzi's versatility, the team can prepare a few more tactics to cope with it. Different opponents. Therefore, in the first game of the preseason against the Knicks, the 76ers directly played a triangle tactic, with Pau Gasol as the core, Angzi as the main attack, and finally narrowly defeated the Knicks. The second game continued against the Knicks. The 76ers changed their tactics and played a pick and roll. Pau Gasol's role was weakened. Angzi and Kawhi made breakthroughs after various pick and rolls. As a result, the 76ers lost the game. Then, the 76ers had another 2 games with the Celtics. In the first game, the 76ers put on a small lineup and went on a big run. Angzi scored 18 assists in a single game, and the 76ers won. The next game Brett Brown insisted on running and bombing tactics, because the 76ers played surprisingly easy in the previous game. But in the second game against the Celtics also changed. The young coach Brad Stevens used a high-pressure tactic and finally defeated the 76ers' running and bombing tactics. In the first 4 preseason games, the 76ers were 2 wins and 2 losses. Brett Brown still did not stop his tactical trials. For the remaining 4 preseason games, the 76ers continued to maintain a 1-win 1-loss rhythm. In the end, the 76ers 4 wins and 4 losses, ending the 14-15 season preseason tour. However, for the 76ers, such a preseason record is certainly not good. Therefore, Zach Lowe's fresh preseason predictions, compared to Mark Stein's preseason predictions, put the 76ers first in the East. He was taken down from the position and placed third in the East. The number 1 in the East is naturally the Cleveland Cavaliers. Under the leadership of the new Big Three, the Cavaliers performed well in the preseason with 7 wins and 1 loss. The second place in the Eastern Conference is surprising. Zach Lowe actually placed the Miami Heat in the second place in the Eastern Conference. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 603. The reason why the Miami Heat appeared in second place in the East was because they played well in the preseason. In 8 preseason games, they won 8 games, and they have a strong momentum. Ruel Deng averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds and 3 assists in 8 games. It can be regarded as a successful replacement for LeBron James to a certain extent, but the most what surprises the Heat is that Ruel Deng and Chris Bosh are not as incompatible as LeBron James. With Ruel Deng averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds and 3 assists per game, Chris Bosh also averages 24 points and 7 rebounds. With the strength of the Big Three in full play, it is not surprising that Zach Lowe is more optimistic about the Heat. The data of the 76ers in the preseason test tactics were very poor. The reason why Zach Lowe ranked the 76ers in third was naturally because the 76ers had a plot to practice tactics, otherwise the ranking would be even lower. Zach Lowe has always been known for his authority, but his prediction rankings this time have made people surprised. Therefore, many people cannot understand the direction of the 76ers in the new season. After all, whether it is from signings or from tactical changes, the 76ers in the season seem to have not changed much. Even if there are changes, they are all changes with unknown effects. What is the record of the 76ers in the new season is still unknown. After all 8 preseason games are over, the regular season schedule for the new season is also released. It's not a coincidence that the 76ers' opponent in the first game of the season is the opponent of last season's finals, Angzi's old club Spurs. However, in the first game of the season, the 76ers are away games. They have to finish the Spurs and then return to home to face the New York Knicks. It's only possible to get the championship ring of your own when you are in the Sri Lanka team. Although Angzi already has 2 championship rings, this does not prevent him from looking forward to the 3rd championship ring. In order to celebrate this hard-won championship, Josh Harris specially invited someone to design. Except for a distinctive championship ring. Before the first game of the regular season, the 76ers' 15-man roster was released. Ismail Smith eventually stayed on the team. He stayed on the team relying on his active and defensive on the field. In the end, it was Ronnie Turiaf and Glenn Robinson III who were naturally out. The final list of the 15th National Congress of the 76ers is as follows. Point guards, Mkaway, Lewis Williams, Sean Livingston, Ismail Smith. Shooting guards, Angzi, James Anderson, Troy Daniels. Small forwards, Jack Lauder, Evan Turner, Francisco Garcia. Power forwards, Pau Gasol, Channing Frye. Centers, Norrens Noel, Cole Aldridge, Joel Embiid. Sam Hinkie decided not to use the injury exception for Joel Embiid for the time being, and the 15-man roster was filled. Brett Brown also worked out the team's rotation plan for the new season. The Sixers' signings in the new season are almost all around the team's bench. The newly introduced Lewis Williams, Evan Turner, and Channing Frye have all strengthened the team's bench depth. Therefore, what worries Brett Brown is coming. Last season, the 76ers' main rotation did not lose. In the new season, there are 3 more players who can enter the main rotation. Obviously, Brett Brown needs to consider the new season. Who is the main rotation player? For the time being, Brett Brown is ready to adopt the asterisk change method. Whoever plays well, who will play subtly, complete a streamlining of the rotation lineup. Therefore, before the start of the first game of the new season, Brett Brown announced in the locker room. In this game, each of you has a chance to play. The first few games of the season will be your chance to prove yourself. I will determine an 8-man rotation or 9-man rotation after a few games. Brett Brown said very clearly that the first few games of the season are opportunities for the rotation players to prove themselves. Therefore, everyone is holding back their energy, ready to prove themselves in the next game. At AT&T Arena, the opening game between the 76ers and the Spurs begins here. There are still 2 openers starting on the same day, namely Magic vs Pelicans and Rockets vs Lakers. So, in contrast, the 76ers vs Spurs are the highlight of the day. Before the game, after Angzi played at the Spurs home court, there was still a lot of noise, cheers and boos. Obviously, the Spurs and Spurs fans' feelings for Angzi are complicated. On the one hand, they look back at Angzi's presence in the Spurs. On the other hand, they will not forget the painful defeat of last season. Some people still remember Angzi's achievements, so they cheered Angzi, others only remember that Angzi defeated themselves last season, so they booed. When we came to the hometown, Angzi naturally had some exchanges with old friends. Last season, Angzi defeated the Spurs personally, and the two teams are considered to have forged some beams, but the relationship between Angzi and the old players of the Spurs is still very good. After talking a few words on both sides, the game began. In the new season, a newcomer has appeared in the 76ers starting lineup, but compared to the previous season, the overall change in the 76ers lineup is not big, with only a center forward. The point guards are still Mkaway, shooting guard Angzi, small forward Jack Lauder, power forward Paul Gasol and center Noren's Noel. The only change is Nolan's Noel. The 76ers value Noel very much. Noel, the lower limit is at least a qualified starting center. On the Spurs side, their starting lineup is also very fixed, with point guard Tony Parker, shooting guard Danny Green, small forward Kawhi Leonard, power forward Boris Diaw and center Tim Duncan. The original starting center Thiago Splitter missed the game due to injury, so the Spurs allowed Dior to appear in the starting lineup. Therefore, for the 76ers, the biggest challenge they have to face in this game it was the Spurs offense. Sure enough, at the beginning of the game, the Spurs won the jump ball. After Tony Parker held the ball, an unexpected pass was passed to Boris Dior, who cut into the interior. Only with this pass, the 76ers defense was completely destroyed. Ripped apart. Boris Dior rushed into the penalty area, attracted the defense and scored the ball. Duncan, who turned to the middle distance, received the ball, made a mid-range shot, and made a successful hit with a scream. The Spurs scored, and this wave of defense of the 76ers also caused some fans to complain, the defense of the 76ers is papery. The 76ers defense is indeed too bad. The Spurs pass in two passes, which is an opportunity. Fortunately, the next is the 76ers offense. The 76ers can hit the ball back on the offensive end. Amidst the cheers of the fans on the sidelines, Mkaway passed the half-court with the ball and then handed the basketball to Angzi. Angzi opened the singles. This is his first singles of the season. Everything is familiar. The defender he faces is still Kawhi Leonard. The two have played against each other several times in the finals. Now, one summer has passed, Kawhi Leonard continued to improve, and the progress of Angzi at its peak was not so great. So, for the first singles in the opening game, Angzi was unexpectedly defended by Kawhi Leonard. Angzi broke through, then turned back and slipped directly backwards, then turned back and shot, but at the moment Angzi turned back, Kawhi Leonard quickly shot out and snapped the basketball directly. There was an exclamation in the ATT arena first, and when the Spurs fans saw what was happening on the field, cheers suddenly sounded. Kawhi Leonard defended Angzi's offense. Beautiful cut. Offensive and defensive conversion. The live commentator Sean Elliott was very excited. This was a successful defense. Immediately afterwards, the game continued. After Kawhi Leonard cut the ball, the Spurs grabbed the ball and the counter-attack began immediately. After a quick counter-attack, the Spurs scored 2 more points and opened 4-0. The 76ers offense still gave the ball to Angzi. Kawhi Leonard's defense began to put Angzi under pressure. An 11 clearly felt Kawhi Leonard's progress compared to last season's finals. Kawhi Leonard's defensive pressure on Angzi seemed to be bigger. However, Angzi did not back down. The 76ers' tactical play was determined at the beginning of the game. The pick-and-roll tactics were the mainstay. Brett Brown also asked Angzi to pass more. Therefore, Angzi sought a pick-and-roll screen for this ball, and with the help of Pau Gasol's screen, an accelerated rushed in. Kawhi Leonard entangled Angzi to death. He showed his improvement over the past summer. Angzi's pick and rolls were excellent, but he could not completely pass Kawhi Leonard all at once. After Angzi rushed into the inside in 3 or 2 steps, he realized the pressure that Kawhi Leonard was putting on him behind him. An 11 gave up the idea of making a strong shot. The inside jumped up, avoiding Kawhi Leonard's interference, and passed the basketball. Got out. Split the ball. Pau Gasol was given a high post, and Gasol didn't make a mid-range jumper. The scene was cheered again. Although Kawhi Leonard did not defend an 11's attack head-on, an 11 passed the ball. In many people's eyes, an 11 felt the pressure from Kawhi Leonard to avoid his etch. Therefore, a group of people cheered in excitement. Kawhi Leonard's successful defense is not over yet. 2 consecutive waves of offense are not good. Angzi has also moved to fight a wave of thoughts. So, facing Kawhi Leonard's defense, Angzi pushed forward forcibly, then turned his back, shook Kawhi Leonard and rushed into the inside, and then made an emergency stop jumper. But in the next second, with a bang, Kawhi Leonard rushed from behind Angzi, and directly shot the basketball off. With a bang, enthusiastic cheers rang out in the ATT arena. Kawhi Leonard also waved his arm excitedly, once again successfully defending. Compared to last season's finals, which was completely exploded by Angzi, he can be said to have won the first 3 duels of this game. Sean Elliott is also very happy. Kawhi Leonard's improvement is in his eyes. 3 successful defenses. Kawhi Leonard's restraint on Angzi is what the Spurs need now. And Turner Sports commentator Magic Johnson called out a title at this time, Angzi Terminator. 3 successful defenses, Kawhi Leonard may become the first Angzi Terminator. Every NBA superstar who has ruled a stage will have a group of Terminator, such as Kobe Terminator Sean Battier, Lagabele and Aaron Aflalo, and also such as the James Terminator, the former Angzi and JJ Barea. Now, after Kawhi Leonard has successfully defended for 3 consecutive times, he is expected to become the first finisher in Angzi's career. But at this time, on the field, the Spurs opened the 76ers 6-0, and Angzi's subsequent strong hit was also taken by Kawhi Leonard. At this moment, Angzi became serious, and of course he felt Kawhi Leonard's improvement, but Angzi also knows that even if Kawhi Leonard continues to improve, he can also break through Kawhi Leonard's defense, because Angzi is now a kaleidoscope of offensive end. The 76ers have 7 seconds left on the offense, and they serve from the sideline. Angzi still resolutely asked for the ball, and the 76ers did not hesitate to continue to hand the ball to Angzi. In 7 seconds, Angzi held the ball outside the 3-point line. When the time was up to the last 3 seconds, Angzi slammed and shot directly. Kawhi Leonard was naturally unable to cover Angzi with this ball, but his interference with his best efforts still had some impact on Angzi. It's just that Angzi's current 3-pointer is 99 points full, and the strength is strong, and it is not at all that ordinary interference can interfere. So, after a while, there was a brushing sound, a crisp net wiping sound, and the ball was scored. An 11 hit a 3-pointer. He shot too strong for this one. After being defended by Kawhi Leonard in a row, Angzi chose a strong shot and scored. There was no sound in the room, leaving only a boil on the 76ers bench. Goal in. 3:6, the 76ers are 3 points behind. Then came the Spurs offense. Tony Parker gave the basketball to Kawhi Leonard. At this time Leonard faced Jack Lauder's defense, took the ball with his back, and after slowly advancing for 2 steps, he suddenly turned his back and shook his face for a while. Only slowly jumped up and threw the basketball out. This is a stand-up jumper after a card frame version of the backup singles. Although the action does not look smooth, it still makes it. Only a scream was heard. The basketball went through the net. Goal in. 8:3. Popovich on the sidelines clapped his hands. Kawhi Leonard's first autonomous attack of this game, the result was very satisfactory to him. In fact, since the ANGSI finals exploded last season, Popovich has also begun to reflect on himself. Is he over-repressing the stars in the team? If ANGSI was given more opportunities to perform, or ANGSI hopes to leave at the time, give some promises on the ball, maybe ANGSI can stay with the Spurs. Unfortunately, there is no if. Therefore, Popovich felt that he should cherish the present, and Kawhi Leonard is now. No matter how good ANGSI's performance is now, even if Kawhi Leonard is completely blown by ANGSI, Popovich always believes that Kawhi Leonard will become a historical superstar. Now, Popovich has decided, give Kawhi Leonard more opportunities to develop his personal abilities, which is also one of Popovich's biggest changes this season. From the beginning of the game, Popovich's decision was correct. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 604. The game continues. ANGSI, who was somewhat restricted by Kawhi Leonard in the opening, soon began to show strong personal offensive strength. In the next wave of offense, ANGSI continued to play singles with the ball. After the outside line was constantly shaking, ANGSI suddenly raised the basketball and made a gesture to make a shot. This was a fake act of worshipping Buddha. ANGSI shook Kawhi Leonard, then accelerated abruptly and rushed in. Kawhi Leonard reacted immediately. It was also a retreat and re-wrapped ANGSI, but this retreat seemed a bit reluctant, because ANGSI's fake action was so simple that Kawhi Leonard couldn't keep up. In this way, after ANGSI accelerated further, Kawhi Leonard was cleared by ANGSI. ANGSI did not stop and continued to rush towards the basket. Tim Duncan waved his arms to make up. The Spurs' defense is very hierarchical, but under ANGSI's accelerated breakthrough, Duncan was also squeezed away by ANGSI. Although he was still leaning against ANGSI, extending his left arm to interfere, but ANGSI's strong layup still prevented Duncan from completely interfering with the ball. The basketball got into the rim with difficulty and the ball was scored. After being restricted by Kawhi Leonard in the opening game, ANGSI suddenly broke out and scored 5 points in a row, letting everyone know that the real ANGSI can't be prevented casually. At 5:8, the 76ers trailed by 3 points and the Spurs served from the backcourt. They attacked quickly and fought back. The 76ers also reacted and quickly organized the defense. The insider Norrance Noel began to show his role. Norrance Noel blocked Tony Parker's breakthrough and layup, and ANGSI tightly. After that, Tony Parker's ball was cut off from behind. In turn, ANGSI speeded up abruptly, speeding up and starting a fast break. This wave of fast breaks once again demonstrated the role of Norrance Noel. Unlike the slow-moving Omer Asik, Norrance Noel is fast. After preventing Tony Parker's breakthrough and layup, he saw ANGSI succeeded in stealing the ball, and at the same time accelerated and counter-run, followed by a fast break. ANGSI rushed to the front court, and the Spurs quickly returned to defense. ANGSI blocked Kawhi Leonard in front of him. After he forced a breakthrough in the middle and attracted almost everyone's defense from the Spurs, he suddenly threw the basketball into the sky. Kong dang! There was a loud noise, and there was already a 76ers player hanging on the rim. It was Jack Lauder with a long bunch of corn braids behind his head. He looked very wild on the rim. He rushed to the basket from the other side, and at the most critical moment, he received ANGSI's high toss, and finally completed this empty catch. Nice shot. What a beautiful job. The 76ers bench was boiling again, and Jack Lauder also ran over to give an 11 a high five with excitement, and 11 smiled and gave Jack Lauder a high five. At this time, the score became 7:8, and the 76ers were only 1 point behind. Next, the Spurs missed the offense, grabbed the offensive rebound and shot a three-pointer, but still missed, Angzi grabbed the rebound and launched a fast break again. This time he passed the ball to Mkaway. Mkaway made a quick breakthrough and a layup caused Danny Green to foul the defense. He walked to the free throw line and made 2 free throws, surpassing the score. Mkaway's strength is still there. At least his ball control and breakthrough are above the standard, and his passing ability is also very good. With strong rebounding and stealing ability, he can be replaced by the other 29 teams. We'll give Mkaway a position as a major point guard. But it's a pity that he is currently in the 76ers. The 76ers have Angzi and Pau Gasol. There is not much demand for Mkaway's passing and possession. The same is true for breakthroughs. There is Angzi in the second position. With the ball killer, the best option for the number 1 position is a point guard who does not occupy the ball, can shoot 3-pointers, and has a strong single defense ability. And Mkaway does not meet any of the above requirements, so now Mkaway's starter is very frustrated, and Angzi gives the ball to him to play. But Sam Sinky has no idea of trading Mkaway. In any case, Mkaway was the league's best rookie last season. It looks promising. The 76ers are unlikely to be sent away from the team. Of potential stocks. On the field, after Mkaway made 2 free throws, the 76ers played their own pace. The next offense, the Spurs offense, Tony Parker's emergency stop jumper finally scored, and then on the 76ers side, Angzi controlled the ball by himself, hit the inside, shot a backward jumper, and also successfully scored. Then the Spurs offense was missed, and the 76ers counter-attack also failed. The two teams interacted with each other. At the end of the first quarter, the Spurs and the 76ers played 28-25, and the Spurs led by 3 points. In the entire first quarter, Angzi combined with passing shots and scored 8 points and 4 assists. In the first quarter, Angzi's performance seemed a little flat, and there was no special explosive performance, which made many people used to watching last season's finals Angzi explosive performance. The fans are outrageous. In the second quarter of the game, Angzi sat on the court to rest for a while, leaving space on the court to Mkaway and Paul Gasol. Unlike last season, Brett Brown has practiced a lot of tactics this season. Now, without Angzi, Mkaway and Pau Gasol have played a triangle tactic, which has given Mkaway a lot of play space. The second quarter also scored again and again, plus Evan Turner, who played at the same time. The three teamed up to help the 76ers stabilize the situation. Sitting off the court, Angzi began to think about how the team played in the first quarter. In the first quarter, although Angzi only scored 8 points, the offensive threat is really surprising. As long as Angzi gets the ball, the Spurs must shift their defensive focus to Angzi's side. However, what makes Angzi frown is that the 76ers did not get an easier scoring opportunity because of Angzi's huge offensive threat. In the first quarter, the 76ers played a pick-and-roll tactic. By constantly outside pick-and-rolls, to get space on the offensive end, but obviously, being behind by 3 points in the first quarter means that the 76ers pick-and-roll tactics are not effective. Angzi considered a lot, and Brett Brown did the same. The one who really has the right to change tactics is Brett Brown. Angzi thought about the tactics of the first quarter there, and Brett Brown also thought about it. Soon, he made a decision. Halfway through the second quarter, the 76ers should also make a substitution. Brett Brown went straight to 4-4. New aides Lewis Williams and Channing Frye played and replaced Mkaway. With Pau Gasol, and Angzi replaced Evan Turner, Jack Lauder replaced James Anderson, and the lineup on the field became point guard Lewis Williams, shooting guard Angzi, small forward Jack Lauder, and power forward the lineup of Channing Frye and center Cole Aldridge. At this time, the score was 43-35, and the 76ers were 8 points behind. Before Angzi and the others played, Brett Brown announced that Angzi could hold the ball infinitely and play infinitely, but he must stick to the pick and roll tactics he played before. This also means that in this new lineup, Angzi is the only ball power point, and this is the decision made by Brett Brown. He decided to use a different lineup to test the team's tactics. After Angzi played the first ball, he felt the benefits of this semi-main and semi-substitute lineup. Lewis Williams came to the front court with the ball, Angzi's left 45 degrees was ready to take the ball, Jack Lauder was in ambush in the bottom corner, and power forward Channing Frye was also ambushing in the bottom corner on the other side. 2 3-pointers away. The existence of the striker makes the Spurs defense jealous. The Spurs also know Channing Frye very well. After all, Channing Frye played for the Suns before and was considered an old opponent of the Spurs. Therefore, they are very aware of Channing Frye's threat from beyond the three-point line. As a result, Angzi took the ball from the outside line, a change of direction in possession, and got into the inside line. After going straight into the penalty area from the left, he followed the gap and directly attracted the Spurs defense. But in the next second, an 11 made a score and immediately shook off the defending Danny Green. An 11 rushed into the interior and succeeded in a layup. The Spurs have nothing to do. The 76ers put two powerful three-point shooters on both sides, and there is also a Lewis Williams who can shoot and explode at any time. It is difficult for them to focus on defense. Put it on Angzi. And this gave Angzi a chance. Angzi made a layup and scored his 10th point of the game. The score became 43-37, and the 76ers were 5 points behind. Then, the Spurs began to attack. For the 76ers lineup, defense is the biggest problem. Lewis Williams is a super sixth man, but he is not favored by Mike Budenholzer. The main reason is his defense. Channing Frye is the same. He is a big man who likes to float on the outside, and he has no effect on the inside defense. Fortunately, the 76ers also have Angzi, Jack Lauder and Cole Aldridge on the field. The 76ers barely organized the defense and began to respond to the Spurs' offense. The Spurs are also a semi-main and semi-substitute lineup at this time. Patrick Mills and Manu Ginobili are the two major backup partners outside, and the front line is Kawhi Leonard and Duncan's two main forces, plus Aaron at the center position. Baines, they conducted the ball continuously from the outside, and finally Patrick Mills took a three-pointer from the outside. It's a pity that it's a bit shorter and didn't make it. Cole Aldridge roared and grabbed the rebound, then passed the basketball to Angzi. Angzi hit a strong counter-attack, mounted a horse and archery against Kawhi Leonard's defense, and with a scream, Angzi scored another 2 points. At 43-39, the points difference continued to shrink. In the Spurs' offense, they still patiently looked for opportunities on the outside. This time, they successfully found an opportunity. Manu Ginobili broke into the inside and succeeded in a layup. As for the 76ers, Angzi continued to break through with the ball. This time, the Spurs resolutely doubled Angzi, and Angzi also chose to split the ball. The perimeter Channing Frye took the ball and shot it. This was his first shot in the 76ers. The effect of $32 million in 4 years depends on the result of this ball. Channing Frye made a three-pointer, and all Spurs fans grew their mouths. The next second, with a scream, the basketball got into the hoop accurately. The goal is scored. At 45-42, the 76ers were only 3 points behind. Channing Frye's three-pointer also made many people realize the role of Frye. A big three-point shooter can make the 76ers' tactics more changes. Time continued to advance and the game continued. The 76ers played more and more smoothly. Compared with the easy difficulty in the first quarter, under the leadership of Angzi in the second half of the second quarter, the 76ers were so powerful that they overtook the score all the way. At the end of the halftime, the Spurs led the Spurs by 6 points in turn with 56-50. At this point in the game, the 76ers have already revealed some of the characteristics of a strong team, at least in the away game, and the Spurs are inextricably difficult to distinguish, and it is not what ordinary teams can do. Anzi scored 15 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists and 2 steals in the half. The data is still good, but it can only be regarded as excellent. Compared with last season's finals, the performance of this data can only be regarded as tepid. But this is what the 76ers want to see, because Anzi can't break out in every game. There are 82 games in the regular season. If every game requires Anzi to break out to win, then this game will be too difficult to play. A healthy team must have a healthy core player. The 76ers need Anzi to play every game healthily. Therefore, Anzi needs to maintain his own state and not consume himself excessively. The second half of the game restarted, and the 76ers resumed their main lineup in the first quarter. Brett Brown watched it for a few minutes. Sure enough, with Mkaway on the outside, the 76ers' offense was not so smooth. However, the Spurs did not overtake the score. The two teams played very anxiously. The 76ers played a strong defense in the second half and restrained the Spurs' offense. The Spurs wanted to counter-attack, but with Anzi flying all over the court to replenish defenses, they also failed to make an effective offensive wave. As a result, the game reached the end of the third quarter, and the 76ers still led the Spurs by 2 points with 74-72. In the third quarter of the game, Anzi scored 7 points and 2 assists. The data of the whole game has become 22 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals and 1 block. The superstar's true character is highlighted. Paul Gasol also scored 15 points and 7 rebounds, perfectly playing the role of the second master. Although Mkaway was suppressed by Anzi, he also scored 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists and 1 steal. Good. Next, in the decisive battle of the fourth quarter, after Brett Brown thought about it, he chose to take Mkaway on the bench and sent Lewis Williams. Although Channing Frye was not a three-point shooter at the fourth position, he was replaced by Pau Gasol, but such a lineup actually played a role in the second half of the second quarter. Although Pau Gasol can't shoot from beyond the three-point line, his mid-range shot is accurate. In this way, Anzi scored another 10 points in the fourth quarter, and Pau Gasol also scored 9 points. The two teamed up to score 19 points, helping the 76ers beat the Spurs by 101-93, 8 points, and won the first of the season. Win. Anzi scored 32 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals and 1 block. Pau Gasol also scored 24 points, 11 rebounds and 2 blocks. The duo scored 56 points. The 76ers defeated the Spurs. No more. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 605. In the first game of the season, the 76ers finally ended with an 8-point victory. In the other two games on the first day, the Pelicans defeated the Magic 101-83. Anthony Davis's third season, his goal is to complete his playoff debut. In this game, Anthony Davis also played. He scored 24 points and 17 rebounds, and an inside star is rising. As for the Magic, after losing Dwight Howard, they went from bad to worse, and there was nothing to look forward to. In another game between the Rockets and the Lakers, the truth is the same. After Howard of Warcraft left, the Lakers have nothing to look forward to. In this game, Kobe Bryant also played, but obviously, this Kobe Bryant is no longer the Kobe Bryant before the injury. In this game, he made only 6 of 17 shots and barely scored 19 points. The Lakers were also defeated and lost to the Rockets 90-108. There were no surprises in the other two games, so the game between the 76ers and the Spurs became a game that many people like to discuss after the game. The 76ers won. The dark horse journey last season made them a strong team. In the first game of the regular season this season, the 76ers showed the characteristics of a strong team. Their game was very stable. The entire game did not give the Spurs too many opportunities. Anzi will always stand up to lead the team when appropriate, and Pau Gasol and Kawhi have also been integrated into the team. The 76ers this season, it's more like a whole. Last season they needed Anzi to explode to win the game, but this season, they don't need it anymore. This is Mark Stein's evaluation of this game. The evaluation is very high. At least in the 76ers' view, they shouldn't deserve this evaluation, because the current 76ers don't seem to have an overall look. Winning the first game is naturally good, but you must also recognize your own shortcomings. After the game, Anzi also exposed the team's shortcomings in interviews with reporters. Today's game, we still played a bit difficult. The Spurs are a strong opponent. Last year's finals, we have learned something. This game, we are still a little strange in cooperation. Obviously, it takes longer to break in. There are 82 games in a regular season, and now the game has just finished the first game. We have plenty of time to complete the break-in then. Anzi expressed his confidence that this season, the 76ers will definitely continue the previous season of success. Then, a reporter raised his hand. What is the goal of the 76ers this season? An old-fashioned question, but at this time, when asked at the beginning of the season, it seems to have a different meaning. Anzi did not hesitate, did not consider, and directly replied, there is no doubt, the championship. Of course, the goal can only be a championship. The 76ers won the championship last season. There is no reason for the 76ers to lower their goals this season. The reporter then asked, then what do you think of LeBron James returning to Cleveland? And Eleven's answer is still very simple, I don't have any opinion. Don't you think the Cleveland Cavaliers are strong? They have 3 all-star players and a group of powerful role players. And 11 said with a cold face, I only know that LeBron James also had 2 all-star teammates and a group of powerful role players last season, but he still lost to me. These words immediately caused an uproar to the reporters at the scene. Anzi was too confident, so confident that some reporters would think he was arrogant. However, it is clear that Anzi won, and everything he said is the truth. No one can refute anything, because they have no way to refute it. The 76ers won the first game. Anzi scored 32 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. Such a victory, coupled with Anzi's data, sparked widespread discussion in China. Grandpa Mu, the 76ers won. This game was a bit easy. At least compared to last season's finals, the 76ers won too easily. Anzi only scored 32 points and they won. The Spurs seem to have nothing at all. It's amazing to have spare power to fight back. Did the 76ers get stronger after an off-season improvement? Or are the Spurs getting worse? The Spurs Anzi fans Huo Wu and Liang Xin responded under Grandpa Mu, obviously, the Spurs have not deteriorated. This season, Kawhi has made considerable progress, and the GDP of the 3 elders has not fallen too much, and the main lineup is also there is no loss, so it can only be that the 76ers have made progress, and now the 76ers are stronger. The well-known Anzi fans turned black and white and responded below, Anzi has become stronger. This strong point is not that his score is higher and the statistics are better, but that his ability to control the game has improved. Grade, in this game, with 32 points and 11 assists, Anzi helped the 76ers win the game. This is only Anzi's contribution at the data level. In addition, Anzi's other contributions can only be seen by those who watched the game. This is true for defense and tempo control. As to whether the 76ers have become stronger, there have been thousands of replies to this discussion thread. On the other side, there are also some posts about data that fans are more concerned about. A well-known data emperor considers him opticis to post a question, 32 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals and 1 block in the first game. Does anyone have any predictions? How much data will Angzi average during the season? This kind of post is the most popular reply to the fans because they can freely imagine Angzi's average data this season. Timothy averaged 32 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals and 1 block per game. He won the top scoring, assists, and steals. Don't ask me why this statistic is. As long as you are not stupid, you will know why. Longing for Ganquin, if you are sensible, average 30 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block per game. He won the top scoring and steals, second in assists. I also hope that the 76ers defense will be better this season. Improve. In this way, Angzi's steal data and block data will not be wasted. I hope Angzi can get it, boy. Of course, there is also the regular season MVP. The thirsty Hope Ganquan said more comprehensively. Angzi's goal this season is aimed at the 2 great honors of the regular season MVP and boy. Many people worry about the 76ers defense. Last season, Angzi's personal defensive data was still outstanding, but the 76ers' overall defensive data was poor, and Angzi could only rank second in DPOY selection. However, this season, the 76ers' defensive transformation has long been on the agenda. With Angzi, Norrens Knoll, and Jack Lauder as the core, a defensive system that can be fast or slow is gradually being formed. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 606. Wachovia Arena, under the night light of Philadelphia, there is a lot of traffic around the arena. On October 29, US time, this is the most important day for Philadelphia. Adam Silver arrived here with Josh Harris and the staff of the league. They brought the championship ring and the championship flag. This is the day the 76ers awarded the championship ring. In this game, their opponent New York Knicks, a spectator, Carmelo Anthony can only watch the 76ers receive the championship ring that many superstar players dream of. Angzi drove his Land Rover into the underground parking lot of the arena. He parked the car and opened the rear door like a gentleman. Abby Hornacek stood up and got out of the car with the help of Angzi. Abby's stomach has been more than 8 months, and the scale of the stomach is already very large. With the help of Angzi and Mrs. Hornacek, he walked towards the elevator. The championship ring collection ceremony is an important moment in Angzi's life. It is also the home court. Not far away, Abby will naturally come to witness it. Walking to the bifurcation of the player channel and the fan channel, Jeff Hornacek took Abby's arm and asked an 11, "And, you go to the locker room first. Let's sit down on the seats in the arena." Angzi nodded. He reserved a 3-row seat for Abby. It was safe and would not be too close to the court. However, it was not far from the court. He could clearly see everything on the court, and he could also be in the most critical position. Time to come to the court. The championship ring award ceremony will begin before the game, so Angzi put on the team's special championship training uniform, and then waited for the beginning of the final ceremony. As the team press officer opened the locker room door and clapped his hands, Angzi stood up. He knew that everything was about to begin. There was a tidy pace in the player channel. The players were chatting around. Only Angzi stood quietly at the end of the crowd. He was the finale and naturally stood at the end. In the arena, the lights dimmed suddenly, and every fan held their breath, waiting for their favorite star to play. This time the appearance ceremony, the newly joined players are not allowed to participate, only the old players from last season can participate. When the live DJ shouted, Antoine Jameson, who had just announced his retirement and wearing a suit, stood up. He was retired player, the only old player who does not participate in the appearance ceremony. Then, the live DJ yelled, "Let's use warm cheers and applause, and your screams, welcome Paul Gasol." A beam of light hit the player channel, and Pau Gasol waved his right hand and rushed out. Then, Mkaway, Jack Lauder, Cole Aldridge, James Anderson, Francisco Garcia, rushed out of the player channel one by one. The 76ers on the sidelines looked at these teammates who were accepting crazy cheers from the audience, showing an expression of envy. Lewis Williams looked at James Anderson, who was jumping, looking very happy, and shouted sourly, "This kid, too awkward." Soon, the lights of the audience dimmed again, and 7 or 8 beams of light suddenly gathered together and hit the players' passage. Many people understood that Angzi, who played the finale, is coming. The cheers sounded like a tide, gradually rang from low tide to high tide, crashing, and soon exploded the eardrums. When Angzi's tall figure appeared at the players' passage, the entire Wachovia arena went crazy. Angzi! 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 MVP! 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 Cheers, screams, and shouts in unison sounded one after another. At this moment, Angzi is the master of the Wachovia Center. There was no envy on Lewis Williams' face. On the contrary, his eyes were full of admiration for Angzi. Ah, this is the superstar. Yes, this is Angzi. With his performance in the finals, he is about to dominate the league. On the sidelines, Abby Hornacek also stood up, listening to her pregnant belly, clapping constantly. Jeff Hornacek and Mrs. Hornacek also smiled and looked at Angzi, who was worshipped by more than 20,000 people. Soon, it was time to receive the ring. Angzi was the first one to come forward, carefully selected from the ring tray, and chose the special ring that belonged to Angzi. Angzi's championship ring is very special. It is completely different from the championship rings of other teammates. This ring was personally customized by him. Josh Harris met Angzi's requirements. A championship ring that is unique in history appeared. When Angzi removed the ring and the lights dimmed again, everything became unusual. The championship ring collection ceremony has never happened before, so many people find it unusual. Abby Hornacek suddenly noticed that the 2 rows of spectators in front of her were scattered towards both sides. Daddy Jeff Hornacek and Mrs. Hornacek also looked at themselves with a smile on their faces. In the darkness, an 11 walked slowly in front of her, holding the special ring, and looking at her. Abby suddenly understood. "Abby, would you marry me?" Abby Hornacek immediately covered his mouth, and the tears stayed like this. Propose. This is Angzi's proposal. Wachovia Stadium was confused by Angzi's sudden attack, but soon, cheers rang out, and gradually yelled in unison. "Marry him! Marry him! Marry him!" The sports reporters on both sides also pressed the camera shutter frantically, clicking and clicking endlessly. Compared with the championship ring award ceremony, compared with this 76ers and Knicks game, the Angzi championship ring proposal will be today. Real headlines. Will Abby accept Angzi? It looks like it will be. If not, it will be even more headline. Unfortunately, there is no if. Abby wiped away tears, took this special ring from Angzi. The shape is no different from the ordinary championship ring. It is the team logo of the 76ers. The difference is that its ring is a hollow heart with words engraved on both sides. Angzi's name is on one side, and the other is Abby's name. Even if the championship ring is engraved with the name, it will only engrave the player's own name. No other person's name has ever been engraved, plus the heart-shaped ring. Obviously, this ring will be a unique ring in NBA history. Abby took the ring and cried out, "I do." There was thunderous applause. Angzi stood up, hugged Abby, and kissed deeply. Not far away, Jeff Hornacek and Mrs. Hornacek watched all this with a smile. The same goes for Brett Brown and team owner Josh Harris. They witnessed Angzi and Abby. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 607. After a memorable moment in the opening, Angzi became full of fighting spirit. This game must be won. The 76ers' opponent in this game was the New York Knicks. Carmelo Anthony waited until the championship ring was awarded before he appeared on the court to warm up. The New York Knicks are also a strong team. They hired Phil Jackson as president this season, and Derek Fisher took over as head coach, leaving Carmelo Anthony behind. Although a series of operations are confusing, but overall there is not much loss of strength, so, with Carmelo Anthony remaining healthy, the Knicks are still quite optimistic. They rank 7th in Zach Lowe's preseason prediction and are considered the team in the Eastern Conference playoffs. In this game, the Knicks are under great pressure, but Carmelo Anthony has set the goal to win, and he is going to disturb the 76ers celebration ceremony. Carmelo Anthony moved his hands and feet on the sidelines for a while, and the game was about to begin. An 11 walked to the side of the court and greeted Carmelo Anthony. The two hugged. An 11 bowed his head and closed his eyes on the sidelines for a while, and waited until the referee held the basketball and walked to the center of the court. An 11 changed from something similar to meditation. He came out of the state, smiled and turned his head and glanced at Abby behind him. Abby waved to Angzi, the corners of Angzi's mouth bent a little bit. Then, shook hands and embraced each other with the opponents on the court. In this game, the 76ers starting lineup remained unchanged, with point guard Nkaway, shooting guard Angzi, small forward Jack Lauder, power forward Pau Gasol and center Norrens Noel. On the Knicks side, the starting point guard, the most controversial signing of this summer, Jose Calderon, came to the Knicks in the Tyson Chandler trade, before Phil Jackson sent him away. The best defensive player, eventually traded for an old Spanish point guard Jose Calderon. I have to say that this deal is very irrational. The starting shooting guard is Iman Shumpert, a 3D combo guard. Carmelo Anthony is in the third position, and the inside line is a combination of Amuri Stoudemire and Samuel Dalembert. This starting lineup does not seem to lack anything, but many experts doubt the strength of several of the main players. For example, Sam Amick believes that the old Jose Calderon and Samuel Dalembert. Without the strength of the starting lineup, the injured Amar Stoudemire may not have the strength of the starting lineup. But of course, everything needs to be tested by the game. With a beep, the referee threw the basketball into the sky and the game began. The young Norrens Noel jumped up and grabbed the basketball in the hands of the old Dalembert and won the opening first. Angzi stretched out his hand for the ball at the beginning. In this game, Angzi's desire to attack was unexpectedly strong. Facing the defense of Iman Shumpert, an 11 took the ball directly from the right 45-degree three-point line, a probing step, and looked up at the basket. An 11 didn't even look at Iman Shumpert. Dry out the CIC and shoot directly. Iman Shumpert also jumped up, but because Angzi's dry pull was sudden, his interference seemed not threatening. With a scream, thunderous cheers and applause rang out, "Let's go in." Angzi clenched a fist, shot a dry jumper that tested the touch on the first ball, and finally made it. For the Knicks, the situation in this game was very difficult. Derek Fisher walked a few steps back and forth from the sidelines, then he hugged his chest in silence and watched the Knicks attack. Jose Calderon holds the ball, and Amar Stoudemire on the inside line pulls to a high position. He receives the ball and starts to organize the offense. The Knicks' offense is a triangle offense. This is the fundamental tactic for Phil Jackson's survival in the league. So, after coming to the Knicks, Phil Jackson asked the team to stick to this tactic. Carmelo Anthony moved quickly, a reverse run, throwing off Jack Lauder, and receiving the basketball. And with a pick-and-roll screen, he formed a big dislocation with a small hit. He faced Pau Gasol. This is the role of the triangle tactic. Through some shifts, the star players can get better singles opportunities. For this ball, Carmelo Anthony also put on a threatening posture, and then, with the same probing step, after one step away from Pau Gasol, he suddenly accelerated and broke into the inside. Against Pau Gasol, he reluctantly followed the defense and made a layup. With a beep, the referee whistled Pau Gasol for a defensive foul, but Anthony didn't make a layup. Anthony walked to the free throw line, made 2 free throws, and the ball returned to the 76ers. The ball is still in charge by an 11. He continues to take the ball within the 45-degree three-point line on the right, posing a 3-threat pose, and another probing step. Iman Shumpert is unmoved, watching Angzi with all his attention. Basketball in hand. Angzi speeded up, broke through quickly, and rushed in. The Knicks immediately double-teamed, and Angzi didn't think about it, and scored the ball directly. At the moment Angzi scored the ball, the Knicks immediately made up for the outside line, but Angzi threw the ball toward the inside line. Lawrence Knoll accelerated 2 steps from the middle distance, jumped up, caught the basketball in the air, and cried. Heavy dunked the basketball into the hoop. The 76ers scored 2 more points for the air receiving cooperation. Wachovia Arena was full of joy. Then, with the Knicks offense, Jose Calderon controlled the rhythm, and finally handed the basketball to Carmelo Anthony. Anthony began to single out Jack Lauder in the middle distance, a back single, and then turned over to shoot a jumper, screaming. Come in. 4:3, the Knicks trailed by 1 point. Then, the game continued. For the 76ers offense, Angzi is going to play basketball again and play singles again. The difference is that this time the singles was initiated outside the three-point line. Angzi changed direction directly and had a strong posture. After swaying Iman Shumpert, he took a step backward with a stride, and took a jumper with a step backward. The jumper was outside the three-point line and Iman Shumpert stretched out. Long arm, but still failed to interfere with the ball. With a scream, Angzi hit a three-pointer. 7:3, Angzi waved his long arm again. The Knicks missed the offense, Lawrence Knoll grabbed the rebound, and then passed the basketball to Angzi. At the beginning of the game, Iman Shumpert was sweating profusely. Facing Angzi, his defensive pressure was too great. The 76ers opening 7 points all found a breakthrough from Iman Shumpert. Then put it in. Of course, it can't be regarded as a breakthrough, at least Angzi's dry draw is a strong shot, and Iman Shumpert's defense is not a big problem. But now, Iman Shumpert's defensive pressure is even greater. If the ball continues to allow the 76ers to score, the score will be opened. Angzi held the ball at the top of the arc, then suddenly turned back, leaning against Iman Shumpert, and then began to push forward with his back. After a few steps, the Knicks couldn't help but doubled over. Angzi didn't hesitate at all. Taking advantage of the double teaming, he turned around and shot a jumper. Iman Shumpert impatiently stretched out his long arm to interfere. Angzi stalled in the air and aimed at the basket before pushing the basketball out. With a scream, Wachovia Arena is carrying again. The goal is scored. At 9:3, the 76ers led the game by 7 points. In the 7th minute of the first quarter, the 76ers led the Knicks by 12 points with 22-10. Carmelo Anthony started to be impatient and fell behind by 12 points in the first quarter. The situation is not optimistic. His goal is victory, but judging from the current situation, victory has become very difficult. Anthony began to ask for the ball on the offensive end, consecutive singles against Jack Lauder. The first goal, a jump layup after 3 threats, was successfully hit. But then Angzi scored a three-pointer and returned a goal. At 25:12, Anthony's second goal was another turnaround jumper and continued to hit. Angzi then played in singles and returned another goal, this time with a layup that broke into the interior. The score became 27:14 again. On the third ball, Anthony ended the attack with a mid-range jumper. Angzi's subsequent answer ball, under Iman Shumpert's strong defense, finally missed a goal. At 27:16, there are 11 points left. The Knicks' offense, they are expected to reduce the point difference to single digits. An 11 beckoned, and then directly switched to Anthony. Anthony has made all 3 shots at this time, and the feel state has reached its peak. Facing Angzi's change of defense, he continued to assume a 3-threat pose. Then, one back, leaning against Angzi. Angzi pressed against Anthony and used all his strength to withstand Anthony's big ass, but Anthony turned around and squeezed Angzi towards the inside. But at this moment, an 11 lowered her body and stretched out her hand. Snapped. There was an inhalation sound from the sidelines. Broken. Marato is old, he shouldn't force a breakthrough in front of Angzi. Stealing the King's power. Melon's 3 goal in a row has been ended. Angzi, who broke off the basketball, jumped directly out and picked up the basketball in his hands. Then rushed to the front court. Fast break. Angzi dribbled the ball, rushed to the front court, and jumped directly from the free throw line. With a bang, the basketball was dunked into the hoop violently. The Knicks reluctantly served from the back court. The score of the 2 teams was already 29:16, and the point difference came back to 13 points. Anthony once again singled Angzi, he continued to use his back to look for opportunities, but then turned over and jumper, but Angzi was pressed from the air. Prevented again. Kenny Smith in the commentary had to sigh, Angzi is too strong. Too strong. He will always show up in time where the team needs him most, whether it is offensive or defensive. Carmelo Anthony's excellent momentum has been curbed in this way. Obviously, for the Knicks, this game is going to become difficult. Soon, the first quarter ended. The 76ers played the Knicks 39:22 in the first quarter, leading the Knicks by 17 points in the first quarter. This is a huge point difference, so many fans have already said something, the game has lost its suspense since the first quarter. Throughout the first quarter, the 76ers scored 39 points, Angzi scored 17 points alone, and there were 5 assists, an explosive performance. In the second quarter, the 76ers placed on the bench and continued to suppress the Knicks. Angzi played in the second half and scored 11 points in the second half, 27 points in the half, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals and 1 block. Both offensive and defensive ends, and such a halftime data seems to let people see Angzi in the finals. But at the end of the half, the 76ers have also led the Knicks by 23 points with 72:49. With a 23-point difference in the half, there was no suspense in the game. The midfield whistle sounded and Carmelo Anthony glanced helplessly at the defending Angzi. Starting from the first 3 consecutive shots in the first quarter, Angzi turned to confront Anthony on the defensive end. Anthony was defended by Angzi, never again. Cannot find the position of the basket, the Knicks also collapsed. "An, you are very strong, but we will not give up in this game." Angzi smiled, but did not respond. Then, after the end of the intermission, the 76ers all came out and Brett Brown asked, before the end of the third quarter, "End all the suspense in this game." Angzi also squeezed his fist. This game is a celebration of the 76ers championship and a special day for his proposal. He must ensure the victory of this game, and he must also ensure that no one takes the headlines of the day. So, in the third quarter, Angzi went wild again. The opening scored a 3-pointer, and then, 2 consecutive backward jumpers and 2 breakthrough layups. Angzi scored 11 points in the opening game, which directly helped the 76ers widen the point difference to 30 points. There is no suspense in the game. However, the Knicks still maintained the main presence, and as time passed, their persistence gradually became useless. At the end of the third quarter, Angzi finally hit a 3-pointer, scored 19 points in the third quarter, and at the end of the third quarter, the 76ers also led the Knicks by 37 points, a very huge point difference. The game also ended. The fourth quarter of the game completely entered garbage time. No one thought that facing the 76ers, the Knicks were so vulnerable. The fourth quarter became a chaotic battle between the two teams. In the end, the 76ers won the Knicks by 33 points with 127-94. Anzi scored 46 points in 3 quarters, plus 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. An explosion similar to last season's finals appeared on Anzi again, 32 points and 5 blocks in the first game. With 11 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, 46 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 4 steals and 2 blocks in the second game, Anzi was completely angry at the beginning of the season. The 76ers also won a 2-game winning streak. At the beginning of the game, he ranked first, in a hot state. On the sidelines, Anzi began to accept an interview with David Aldridge. A 33-point victory over the Knicks. What do you think this victory represents? Anzi is inexplicably serious. This victory means a lot. I don't want to talk about it one by one. I will only say the most important point. This victory is the last carnival of the Phillies for last season. Put the goal entirely on this season. For the Knicks, Zach Lowe's preseason prediction is that they are the Eastern Conference playoff team, and after this battle, what do you think of the Knicks' true strength? Regarding this question, Anzi really didn't want to tell the truth, so he ended the interview with an answer expressing self-confidence. The Knicks are strong, but we are stronger. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 608. As for the Knicks' true strength, an 11 can see clearly through this match. After several major repairs, Amar Stoudemire has long lost the ability to fly to the sky, and now even the starting strength is almost gone. Dalem Porter on the inside and Jose Calderon at the point guard position are not too strong. Sending Tyson Chandler away for the two of them is obviously a loss. The Knicks have not, in exchange for a point guard above the level, but also lost the inside gate. With only a Carmelo Anthony strong support, the Knicks' prospects this season are not optimistic. But Anzi would definitely not say anything more. Time will test whether what he sees is really clear. Defeating the Knicks at home, the 76ers ushered in a wave of 2 consecutive victories at the start of the game. Then, the 76ers rested for a few days and waited until the time entered November before they ushered in the 3rd game of the season. In this game, they are away from home. The opponent is the Indiana Pacers, who lost Paul George. This season, the Pacers, who lost Paul George, are not ready to take advantage of the situation. At least the team president Larry Bird is still continuing to sign in. They introduced C.J. Miles and Chris Copeland to fill the vacancy of Paul George, welcoming Rodney Starkey to supplement the back line, plus leaving the main players such as Roy Hibbert, David West, and George Hill. The new season, the Pacers still aim their goal in the postseason in the game. In the opening 2 games, the Pacers also achieved a record of 1 win and 1 loss. They defeated the Bucks, lost the Grizzlies, won the underdogs in the East, and lost the strong teams in the West. There were no unexpected results, and the results of these 2 games, win or lose, obviously it is difficult for people to see the true strength of the Pacers now. Of course, in front of the 76ers, no matter how strong the Pacers are, they can't match the 76ers anyway. Soon, the game began. With the power of 2 consecutive victories, the 76ers did not give the Pacers any face, and they broke out in the opening game. Kawhi scored 4 points and 4 assists in the opening game, but Anzi had to play off the ball. The team was in good shape and Anzi was happy to relax. As a result, this gave Kawhi, who was in excellent condition in this game, enough room to play. He constantly scored through breakthroughs. In the first quarter of the game, under Kawhi's outbreak, the 76ers took the lead with 29-20. The Pacers scored 9 points. Without Paul George, the Pacers' perimeter defense has also become riddled with holes. Under the 76ers' fast-breaking offensive tactics, they have become difficult to resist any attack of the 76ers. Frank Vogel is also very depressed. The Pacers are always reciting words. Every time they get better, the team will always have accidents. Before, it was hard to develop a Danny Granger, and the result was less than 2 seasons. Danny Granger has been injured continuously and can't support the team at all. Then Paul George appeared, and the Pacers were on the right track again, but before the start of the season, they suffered a frightening broken leg injury. The two major cores were injured at critical moments in succession, or serious injuries that were reimbursed for the season, which made Frank Vogel have to wonder if the Pacers were cursed. But now he has no choice but to brace his head and lead the Pacers to break through, to fight for every victory. 9 points behind in the first quarter, in Frank Vogel's view, this is a score that can be chased. So, in the second quarter, he made a desperate move and put in a completely small offensive lineup with the goal of chasing points. But coincidentally, the 76ers also put out a small lineup. Anzi, who didn't make much effort in the first quarter, was put on the court by Brett Brown, plus Lewis Williams, Francisco Garcia, Channing Frye, and Cole Aldridge. Anzi, who only scored 7 points and 2 assists in the first quarter, then broke out in the second quarter. He scored 18 points in a single quarter, plus 5 assists, helping the 76ers get 43 points in a single quarter, and the Pacers' idea of chasing points in the second quarter was shattered. The 76ers hit the Pacers at 43-27 in the second quarter, and the single quarter widened the 16-point gap. With Anzi as the core, the outside line with multiple three-point shooters is obviously the most successful of the 76ers. A tactic, regardless of defense, just this offense is a bit unmatched. At halftime, the 76ers led the Pacers by 25 points at 72-47 at halftime. Obviously, for the 76ers, this is another victory without suspense. The final score of the two teams was 125-97. The 76ers won the Pacers by 28 points. In this way, all 3 games in the first week of the new season were played, and the 76ers achieved a 3-game winning streak. At the beginning of the game, they showed excellent form. Defeating the Spurs in the first game, Anzi scored 32 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. Defeating the Knicks in the second game, Anzi scored another 46 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. In the game, Anzi still clocked out of get-off work in 3 quarters, and finally got 33 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals and 1 block. In all 3 games, he averaged 37 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals and 1.3 blocks. Thus, at the end of the first week, Anzi's strong performance deservedly made him the player of the first week in the Eastern Conference. The 76ers' current 3-game winning streak is naturally the first place in the East, but there is another team in the East that has not lost a game, defeating the Washington Wizards, Toronto Raptors, and Milwaukee Bucks one after another. The team's Miami Heat team, as expected by Zach Lowe before the season, although the Heat lost Lou Deng, there is no major loss in strength, and the start of the game is still strong. Other teams in the East have more or less losses. Like the Cavaliers, they only played 2 games, one lost to the Knicks and the other to the Bulls. The Bulls lost naturally to the Cavaliers. The Raptors lost to the Heat, and the Hawks also lost to the Wizards. In short, only the 76ers and the Heat in the Eastern Conference won the first week of the game. The West also has 2 teams that have not lost a game. One is the Rockets led by James Harden and Howard. They defeated the Lakers in the first game, then beat the Jazz back-to-back, and beat the Celtics at home in the third game. Victorious in 3 games, unexpectedly occupy the first place in the Western Conference. Many people chanted because of this, The combination of the first shooting guard and the first center in the West seems to be breaking out this season. Another team that won all 3 games is also surprising. The Warriors, who ranked second in the Western Conference last season, also had a strong performance at the beginning of the game. Under the leadership of coach Steve Kerr, the Warriors first defeated the Kings and Lakers successively, and then defeated the Trail Blazers by 5 points. The opening game also achieved a 3-game winning streak. Clay, who averaged 30 points in 3 games. Thompson has become the best in the Western Conference in the first week of the new season. Then, time continued to advance and the season continued, and the 76ers also ushered in their 4th game. In this game, their opponent is the Bucks. The Bucks have continued to perform poorly this season. Coach Jason Kidd has not been able to bring much change to the Bucks, at least in a short period of time. In the new season, they lost all 3 games and continue to rank bottom in the East. However, the progress of number 2 Jabari Park and last season rookie Giannis Antetokounmpo still gives the Bucks some hope. Although the Bucks have a poor record in this game, the challenge to Anzi is actually very strong. In this game, he must face the Bucks' young forward swingman, Jabari Parker, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton. Of course, for the 76ers, there is no problem with winning this game. In the face of this group of young forward swingers, Anzi also showed a relatively outstanding performance. In the first 3 quarters of the game, the 76ers did not give the Bucks too many opportunities. They kept the lead under the outbreak of Pau Gasol, but the lead was not large, until the final game in the 4th quarter. The decisive battle in the 4th quarter began. Anzi broke out. He is not ready to give the Bucks any chance. 4 consecutive victories, the 76ers must win. At the beginning of the 4th quarter, Anzi continuously shot cold arrows outside the 3-point line, scoring 6 points in a row. Then he defended Giannis Antetokounmpo's layup, grabbed the rebound and rushed all the way to the front court with a one-handed dunk, suddenly widening the point difference to double digits. 2 consecutive 3-pointers and a dunk. At the most critical moment, Anzi showed his sharp fangs and began to tear the Bucks with ease. The 76ers expanded their lead, and the Bucks, led by Jason Kidd, set off a counterattack, but soon after Anzi made another 3-pointer, the counterattack was extinguished. The buzzer of the final timer sounded, and the 76ers won another victory. They defeated the Bucks by 111-98, 13 points, and won their 4-game winning streak since the start of the game. In the whole game, Anzi scored another 38 points, plus 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. The average scoring has reached 37.3 points, ranking first in the league in scoring. He also averaged 9.5 assists per game, second only to Chris Paul's 11.3 assists. He averaged 3.5 steals per game, also ranking first in the league. As a result, the NBA official website released the first MVP rankings of the season. With a strong performance, Anzi can no longer ignore him. In the first MVP rankings, Anzi deservedly ranked first. In addition to Anzi's own bravery, the 76ers' 4 victories and unmatched attack power also sparked a lot of discussion. In the first 4 games, the 76ers averaged 116 points per game. Several times, they played 30 or even 40 points in a single quarter. Obviously, the 76ers improved faster this season because of their offense. Their scoring points are better than last season. There were more, the offense became fast or slow, the tactics were rich, and the offensive progress was naturally great. Such an improvement is naturally good for the 76ers' journey to defend the title. A well-known domestic commentator, Sukun, made some comments on the 76ers' offensive performance this season, and the comments were very pertinent. This comment also sparked some discussion. The 76ers' performance this season is indeed very good. They have won all 4 games and are now number 1 in the Eastern Conference. Out of the 4 games, there have been 2 wild victories, and the other two games were also locked early. The victory, especially the defeat of the Spurs in the opening game, the 76ers played very easily, which makes people feel confident about the 76ers' journey to defend the title. Anzi is too strong. This season, his control of the game has gone to a higher level. From now on, Anzi is a well-deserved candidate for the regular season MVP, and the 76ers are also the most powerful contenders for the championship, even if the Cleveland Cavaliers are formed. The new Big Three. The 76ers won all 4 games, but the Rockets of the West lost in Game 4. It is worth mentioning that they lost to the Heat that was not lost in the East. In this game, Ruorden made 13 of 19 shots, completely blasting Trevor Ariza, who was against him. He scored 30 points, 5 rebounds and 4 assists in the game. Lou, who looked completely out of possession of the ball, scored 30 points, 5 rebounds and 4 assists in this game. Deng is the more suitable wing player for the Heat. Dwayne Wade completely controlled the ball. In this game, he also scored 20 points, 3 rebounds and 10 assists. Chris Bosh's shots can also be guaranteed. During the third quarter, he was in continuous shots from the middle distance helped the Heat secure the victory. In the end, he also scored 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. After this victory, the Heat also continued their winning streak and, like the 76ers, achieved a wave of 4 consecutive victories. It is worth mentioning that their next opponent is the 76ers. This game is the 76ers' home game, so, the day before the game, the Heat arrived in Philadelphia and stayed at the Philadelphia National Hotel. They held a press conference. The 4-game winning streak allowed Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh to completely regain their confidence. At this time, they had forgotten LeBron James. If it weren't for such a brotherhood, perhaps they would both begin to laugh at LeBron James, because the Cavaliers, who also played 4 games, have only won 2 wins, losing to the New York Knicks and the Golden State Warriors respectively. Among them, they lost the second game and gave the Warriors 4th. A winning streak. The Warriors, together with the Heat and the 76ers, became the only team in the East and West to win all 3. The Cavaliers' 2 wins and 2 losses, such a record is naturally not good, so at this time Wade and Bosh are proud of themselves. Of course, Ruorden is even more proud. He feels that he has proved that he is a star player who can do better than LBJ. In the press conference before the game, the reporter asked, facing the same 4-game winning streak, what is the Heat's goal? Such a question. Ruorden gave an unsurprising answer, of course it is victory. But when the reporter asked further, but the 76ers are very strong, they are also a 4-game winning team. Ruorden showed his complacency, 4-game winning streak? I'm sorry, we just defeated the Rockets with a 3-game winning streak, and the Sixers with a 4-game winning streak are no exception. What's more, in Zach in Lowe's preseason forecast, the 76ers were ranked below us. Such words naturally reached Angzi's ears, and Angzi sneered back at this. From Angzi's point of view, whether the Heat are really as strong as Zach Lowe predicted, whether the Heat's current record really reflects their true strength, everything still needs the 76ers test.